time she comes here, man. She loves it. All right, let's do it. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here for this regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Fort Walton Beach. If you have an electronic device, please check it. Make sure it's on silent, vibrate, and not annoying. We will start the meeting with an invocation from Pastor Felix Cole from Beulah Baptist Church. Then we will continue to stand, if you're able, for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor?
Good evening, Major. Good evening, council members, all that are here in the community. I invite you to pray with me on tonight. Gracious and eternal God, the maker and creator of every perfect gift, we pause at the beginning of this meeting to acknowledge the true wisdom, justice, and compassion. They all come from you. We thank you for the opportunity to gather in this service in this community tonight in service for them and for the responsibility entrusted to all of these leaders on the dais. Grant to them counsel with clear minds to think wisely. Give them steady hearts to act justly and listening ears to hear the voices and needs of all people they serve. Help them to lead with integrity, humility, and sincere commitment to the common good. May their decisions promote fairness, strengthen unity, and create pathways for opportunity, safety, and well-being for every resident of this city. Guide our discussions today so they are marked by respect, patience, and cooperation. Lord, if differences do arise, grant us the spirit of understanding. When challenges seem complex, give us clarity. When difficult decisions must be made, grant us the courage and the moral convictions to do the right thing. God, we also ask you to bless all our employees, our public servants, our first responders, and the volunteers who work daily to sustain and improve this community and this city. Strengthen their families, the businesses, the schools, and neighborhoods that are represented here tonight. And help this city to be a place where hope is nurtured, justice is practiced, and neighbors care for one another. As this meeting proceeds, may all that is said and done reflect a sincere desire to serve faithfully and lead responsibly. In your holy and gracious name, we pray and ask all things. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You used one. I loved it. All right, council need approval of tonight's agenda.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Schmidt, seconded by Councilwoman DeBerry to approve tonight's agenda as it's been presented. Any additional comments, council? Please vote. Tonight's agenda is unanimously approved with Councilman Jeter, I believe, en route. Correct. That brings us to recognitions. Mr. Davis, you have one tonight?
We do. So 5 years of service in our Parks and Rec division, Mr. Brian Allen.
Brian. OH.
I-O. Oh, boy, you were saying I-O.
That was like a smile. All right, presentations. Item 6 on the agenda, a status update on the landing project.
Good evening, Joe Garvey, owner, GLC Contracting. Wonderful invocation. I was invited here tonight to give you guys a update on the landing, and I just left a meeting down there not too long ago with the architect of record. So Right now, we're in phase 2 and phase 3. Phase 1 is completed, which was the whole water side with the docks and the seawalls. Currently on phase 2, we'll be pouring concrete tomorrow. You see all the columns that are going up that are holding the whole steel structure. We'll be infilling those with concrete. Structural engineers visiting the site tomorrow to approve the upper roof and all the welds that were done. Once that approval is good, and it should be good, we can get to painting all the structural steel members that are up there and start on the TPO roof. There'll actually be a roof on top of the metal roof that's there. There'll be a TPO up above it. The lower roof has approximately 2 weeks to go. Soon there'll be work. The roof actually goes up and there's concrete about 5 feet down on the inside, which is where a HVAC unit will be sitting inside there, and we've got that all formed up and ready to pour. We'll probably be pouring that next week. Be working on the band shell sidewalk. It's the last sidewalk that goes around the band shell, and the seating walls, the footers are to be started next week. Phase 3 is the west side of it. We are finalizing the seating end walls. I don't know if anybody has seen it recently. It's now got the artificial turf on it. It looks really good. The walls are all done. We only have one more sidewalk to go on the top of it. Tomorrow I think we're going to pour 4 light poles with the pour that we're doing down on phase 2. And irrigation guy is started. He's given us a diagram of what he's going to do on the west side, and he plans on starting that work on February 16th. Current manpower right now, we have 3 concrete crews, electrical crew, structural steel crew, the irrigation, and the roof crew is starting as soon as they get this approval from the engineer. And after that, we're going to be moving into HVAC, handrails, the materials, they're already ready for install. And I know everybody's asking, and our major push right now is for an end of March is a goal that we're shooting for. So I would like to thank everybody in the city of Fort Walton. There were some people that were on the team that they've left, retired and all that. Daniel's over there, he's done just an awesome job with all his communication with everybody. The architect has been awesome to work with, and we're pushing on through it. I think it's just going to be a wonderful job when it's done. So,
Thank you, Mr. Garvey. We appreciate the information. Anybody have any questions? Councilman Schmidt?
yes, sir.
Does that finish the deliverables for phase 3?
Tell me that.
The things that you just mentioned, a great update, appreciate that. Does that finish
sir.
the deliverables for phase 3?
Yeah, like anything that needs to come into phase
That's it,
3.
yeah, did you cover, is that everything?
Yeah,
Is there anything else that we didn't just go
No,
over
believe
that
it or
still
not,
needs to
we're
be
really
done
trying
before?
to just get down to that silo. I call it a silo, they call it a band shell. We're really closing in on it. The structural steel on it it's been really kind of a custom job, a very difficult job. That's a complete concrete silo. With all the rebar going in, just being a circular fashion, it's just made it extremely difficult for everything attaching into it. So yes, phase 3, we're really, as soon as we pour that sidewalk, and I think they want to do that next week, we're really closing in on the western side of that. Handrails are already done and in the shop and ready to go up. So we're just trying to push in right on that silo, and I know we need to get that silo done for some events that are going to be happening. So
Thank you. Thanks, follow-up?
Absolutely.
What is our plan currently from staff with phase 4?
Is that, where's Dan?
Are we gonna
Out to bid, yeah.
push that out to bid, or are we gonna, what's the play?
So phase 4, we have drawings and documents, but we don't, funding is, I think, something that needs to be addressed.
So we're funded through phase 3 is where we're at funding-wise?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And phase 4 being everything outside of the fence.
Gotcha. Thanks, Danny.
Anyone else questions for Mr. Garvey? Thank you for being here, sir. Appreciate you taking time to do that. Brings us to item 6.2, which is actual impacts related to the 3% budget cap. And just before Mr. Davis begins his presentation, I'll just let everyone know as well. We will let the public comment on this as well, because our council members would certainly love to hear from anyone from the public that has something to say on that. And we'll also give all the council members an opportunity to speak. You know, if you'd like to send a message to the voting public as a council member, you can certainly do that. Mr. Davis.
Thank you. So before I dive into the spicy stuff, I just want to talk about a few things because the staff keeps bringing me various odds and ends. So one person stated, I couldn't tell if it was an older woman, older gentleman, but that I should be embarrassed because I'm taking a neutral stance. So just to give that some context, I don't do politics. I'm not going to vote on anything. I've never voted on anything in my life. I'm not voting on this. I'm not telling anybody how to vote, so I'm taking that neutral stance because I'm indifferent. Whatever it is what it is, right? There's nothing in here that's new. I've been speaking to this since October-ish. I put it in the weekly report I send you guys, and I discussed that white paper for ICMA. So the sneak attack claims are kind of nonsense, right? Again, it's an education campaign, so you can probably tell just by looking at me and listening to me, I'm not what you would call an academic, but this is my ability to offer to ICMA and FCCMA saying, hey, cities can review this and say, that's exactly what we want to happen to our town, or they can say, don't want to do that, right? But it'll at least give them some data to suggest what they want to do. The original intent for the white paper was to turn it over at the end of the fiscal year, because, I mean, again, I don't know how everything's going to shake out. But it became public record, so we're speaking to it now. But that white paper, it's draft form. It's literally me just copying from emails that staff sends me, putting it in there and making the font match. So we haven't really put any hard data to it yet, but navigating the challenges as they come about. I like to look at it as this is process improvement, right? So just take a pause and broaden the gaze a little bit, and like any project that I've ever been a part of, so building jails or paving roads or whatever, there's always a lessons learned after, right? So Senate Bill 180 is a great example. That was enacted, 6 months ago? I think it had a lot of impact that people didn't expect. So we have a local champion here, Senator Gates, is going after some revisions to that with input from local leaders. I bored him for 45 minutes and drove up to visit him in Crestview, and some others have already done the same. So it's no different, right? We did something. We're processing it. Maybe it was a good idea, maybe it was a bad idea, and we're regrouping potentially, right? And then as far as, I've asked the staff, I'm not going to engage the Facebook nonsense. I've asked the staff not to. You know, nothing good comes from that. We're not going to manage the city off social media sites. And I will spare you my thoughts on full-grown men whining on Facebook, but that's kind of where we're at with that. So the actual impacts, you know, I put together a little slideshow here to speak to some of them. The first slide, do I have a remote? Got it? So that, we can go, that use it or lose it mentality is kind of what we've started to experience. And it's, you know, based on what we spend, so those actuals, and just easy math, I put 60 million on there, but just, let's just say the budget's 10 million. It's obviously not, but it's easy math for me because I'm not what you would call a wizard of sorts. So if we spend the 10 million, my budget 3% cap would be 10.3, right? Easy math. Let's say I'm frugally fiscal or fiscally frugal, and I spend 9 million. Now my budget's 9.275 or whatever it is, right? So we follow the math there. So our expenses increased by more than 3% annually, pretty much across the board. Payroll was going to be out of market in less than 3 years. We're already out of market with several of our positions. We're just holding on a pay study of sorts. Revenues are down in several of our, so tower sites, there's one we're navigating now where we're going to lose some revenue there. Our insurance goes up every year. Fuel costs, I think previous councils lost their mind over a fuel cost increase, but it was because of the recession, so the fuel went from $3 a gallon to $5 a gallon, so, right? Utilities costs go up. I don't know if everybody else has FP&L in here, but FP&L does not give us a Groupon, so our utilities costs go up. And I don't know that anybody on the planet was expecting tariffs, but tariffs were also an impact to our budget. That use it or lose it, easy way to explain it. Golf course was closed for 3 days last week, week before, because it was cold and the grass was too hard or whatever. I don't golf. But we had to have the entire team show up, so we use that money so we don't lose golf course staff as that shaves down, right? We follow the math. Next. That costly loss of talent, so losing top talent. So far, we've lost 12 that specifically said one of the reasons they're bailing is due to this cap. That cost the taxpayers a minimum of $120K. It's about 10K per person, because we've got to cover overtime and advertising. So it's plus or minus for each position, right? And then we've talked about the special interest group math, if you will. We cut a 100K position to contract it out for a 200K because that fit under the cap in terms of operations. And then for me, the bigger problem is we're losing that tacit knowledge. The people who have been here for quite some time, we have to replace them with potentially an outsider, those sorts of things. So just capturing all that knowledge is tough for me. It's an inefficient operation. I mean, it's a poor use of staff time, so I don't know what my hourly rate is, and the finance director and the city attorney and the department heads, but we occasionally have to stop what we're doing and have an hour or two meeting just to kind of navigate. You know, I feel like we're trying to find ways to almost cheat the system to get it under there, and that's, you know, we're taking a lot of staff time to do that, right? For example, grants, it's free labor. So, but we had to stop because it comes out of operations to pay that person. I'm gonna figure it out, but I'm not gonna turn away free labor just because, you know, we have a handcuff in place. I'll figure something out at the end of the year, but IT team is stretched pretty thin, so if I can get some free help, I'm all about it. And then IT equipment, it's not cheap, right? So we have some servers and some routers, not routers, Jeremy, what's the big fancy word? Jeremy's not here, took a nap. Switches, okay, those things aren't cheap and we have to replace them, and we're just opening ourselves up for potential cyber events, right? Threat actors are always out there looking to see what they can do. And the longer we push those off so we can get it under the budget, now there's an argument that could be made that that's more of a millage concern, but if I can't get it into the operating, right, it's gonna hit you from a millage and a cap concern. All right, cut services, next guy. So we have citizens' expectations for services can be potentially lowered. We had to cut the fire outreach program, which I think in my notes I put $5,000. It's actually closer to a $9,000 program, but it's really cool, right? We get to set a trailer on fire and the kids can see how fast it puts out with sprinklers versus no sprinklers. And it's an education campaign that's, you know, it's very popular. So we've punted on that this year. We were looking at potentially expanding some senior programs, other community programs, educational programs. Not happening. We can't expand our youth sports, so we have a cap on player numbers. So if we have one kid show up extra, we get to tell that kid, no thanks, sorry. Can't buy another jersey, right? Then I have other programs that want to come in. I have a group that wants to teach rugby and a group that wants to do paddleboard or kayaking, something along those lines. Super cool programs that I'd love to add, but we're not entertaining it at this moment. Unless council comes back and says, hey, cut 14 soccer teams and 2 baseball teams and this and that, and let's get those programs in here. So that's potentially a route to go, but that's not a decision I'm going to make. Vendor fittings at the golf course have been canceled. That usually generates plus or minus $20,000 a year for the golf course. Zero cost to the golf course. It's done for free, right? But people get their fancy golf clubs fitted for them, and then we order them, but that order comes out of operations. It is a very popular program, but we punted on that this year as well. Merchandise and range balls, we've talked about that before. It's, you know, a little silly, but it is what it is. Next. All right, revenue beautification impediments. So we cannot go after unrecognized revenue and it's kind of working against our beautification program. So growth management has a means to go after $170K in lost revenue, but we're not going to be able to contract those services. So we're punting on that for a year or two. We're not fixing some damaged property. So we have a police car, a couple golf carts. That's just a strategy that I'm employing because I don't want to get to the end of the year and have an uh-oh and not be able to pay for it, right? So if we weren't navigating this cap, we'd go get our police car fixed, but we're driving it because it's not a safety issue. It just looks bad. It's a bad image, right? And tree mitigation funds, same concept. We could go do a lot of cool little tree projects right now, but we're waiting to see how the fiscal year shakes out to make sure we don't have an unintended disaster. All right, quality of life study. So, forgot the name of the group, but they did a 2020 quality of life study, and things that came out of it. 62% stated they have a poor leadership from elected officials. That's what was captured by this company. And I mean, this is Exhibit A, right? You know, we're throwing rocks at each other. We get calling names, and we're not coming to consensus and working together. So this one hurts my heart a little bit, because it sounds like this happened in 2020, and now it's 2026, and we're still working against each other instead of coming to that common ground and working together. So it's, you know, repeating the sins of the past. 61% stated poor job opportunities with good pay, and we're just propagating that with this approach, right? I can't pay the staff, potentially. 82% of people want vibrant parks and services, so I don't disagree that we have a lot of parks, but my mindset is, if we're gonna have a park, it's gonna be the best park. If we're gonna have a police department, it's gonna be the best police department, so on and so forth. I don't do mediocre. So 82% of the people said they wanted vibrant parks and services. So we're not using our tree funds the way we probably could, right? We're not adding programs for kids that we probably could, you know, so those sorts of things. Both PD and fire department in this quality of life study, voters want taxpayer dollars managed effectively and have overwhelming confidence in management. So that was maybe a nice thing to say that we took out of there. So the strategic plan before I started specifically stated public safety, recreation services, and employee satisfaction were all driving factors for that strategic plan. Now we've regrouped on that because those, in my opinion, are not strategic plan concepts. Those are all my job, right? That's my role. But again, we're working against our own strategic plan. We're working against the quality of life study, where however many people were surveyed said this is what we want. All right, next one. So budget versus actual, you know, budgeted versus actuals or expenditures, whatever. I get these all mixed up, but we don't know what our actuals are until November. And it has nothing to do with the audit. With the modified accrual, it's 60 days after, right? So the budget, September 30, September 31, 60 days later, we know what the actuals were. Nothing to do with anything. It's just government finance. Also, we cannot forecast revenue until June, July. We could have a misfire there if we tried to be aggressive, and we'd have to account for it under that 3% if we were off by a little bit. So, anything you want to add to that before I sound dumb and move on? No? Good? So, quick summary. You know, this was just kind of my draft. I don't know how this is going to end, right? But it sounds like a means to save tax dollars, but what we're seeing is it's kind of doing the exact same thing. It's just handcuffing the operations. So it's just project, you know, process improvement. The data captured over the first 6 months shows the caps to be almost counterintuitive as it relates to saving taxpayer dollars and delivering efficient form of government. So, I mean, that's kind of like where we're at. I don't know what it's going to look like in October. Could be drastically different. I could be wrong on some of this, right? This is a draft, but these are the talking points that we have now. So unless we have any questions, that's all I got for you.
Thank you, sir. We'll first open it up to the public. Anyone wants to speak on this? We'll give you a couple minutes to come on up and just state your name and your address. Yes, sir. You can be first.
Good evening. My name is Hank Kristen. I live at 113 Brook Street, and I am asking that you seriously consider the repeal of the 3% cap. Now, I'm taking a fire service perspective because I retired as a battalion chief on the Atlanta Fire Department, and then I was Director of Public Safety in for Okaloosa County, which was EMS and emergency management. All of you are business people, so I want to take a little different tack here and explain emergency response, and I will be brief, in terms of a business model. And their business model is to put $3 million worth of equipment. I say they, I mean the Fort Walton Beach Fire Department. I would add that law enforcement partners and EMS respond with them. But they can put $3 million worth of equipment and 10 to 12 highly skilled technicians on anybody's front door in 5 minutes, 365 days a year, regardless of anyone's ability to pay. Now, what's that got to do with the cap? Well, let's go back for a minute, and I said the highly skilled technicians are firefighters. And it's fascinating the services that they have that a lot of times it's not the public isn't exactly aware of it, but they expect it. For example, you see a ladder truck. Picture a ladder truck as a hardware store on wheels with every piece of equipment you can possibly imagine. That's why you see a ladder truck at a one-story house fire. Okay, a fire engine, in fact, tongue-in-cheek, we refer to them as BRTs, big red trucks. And the big red trucks, the engine has paramedics on board. They respond to hazardous materials incidents. They do vehicle extrication, that is removing someone from a vehicle. They do rescue, high-angle rescue, you name it. And today was a significant day, by the way, in that the fireboat and police boat was accepted in the ceremony. Well, those people need special equipment. They need special training above and beyond what they have and special maintenance. And you can't do that with the 3% cap that is a severe limitation. And I add as a side note too, I have several close friends that got offers they couldn't refuse from other fire service organizations, and we lost them. And retention is a big problem. Fort Walton Beach, you go to any fire station in Destin or on the island, doesn't matter, and they'll tell you that Fort Walton Beach is the training ground for firefighters to get experience, get their paramedic certification, and they're off to somewhere else. And we can't afford to keep losing them. So I want you to consider the skill sets rather, that they have and that we need to maintain. And I'll close by saying that if I find myself upside down in my car on Highway 98, or I'm sitting on the floor at Publix with substernal chest pain, I want highly trained responders that are certified, that have the equipment and have the capabilities to do what I expect as a citizen. So, as I said, I urge you to repeal the 3% cap. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you,
Sincerely
sir.
appreciate it. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Denise Sturker. I live at 33 Pryor Road Southeast. I grew up here in Fort Walton, and you know, the city's gone through a lot of changes since I was a kid. But most significantly, in the last 5 years, we've seen so many beautification projects, so much good change that's happened. Because when I was younger, it was all going downhill. And we're finally seeing some progress, and this, to me, is just a step in the wrong direction. I did come to a meeting several months ago before the election to speak out against this. Like I said, this is exactly what I feared was going to be the problem. I think this was promoted as a way to save taxpayers money. People were very upset about the fire assessment at the time. And I think it was put in front of people as, oh, this is going to save you on taxes, you know, but, you know, you're still getting our money. It's just how you're able to spend it. And as a young mother of young children, I'm not young, my kids are, but, you know, my kids enjoy the rec center, their programs. They're very involved in the rec sports here in the city. If we lose those rec sports, you know, and I've got to put my kids in private sports. I mean, how much, I pay $35 to sign my kid up for soccer here. That's amazing. That's amazing. And it's a great program and it's fun. And, but we're looking at hundreds of dollars to put them into some elite private soccer program that, you know, kids probably can't compete. But I just think that, like, that's what the city wants. That's what the young families want. Maybe not everybody enjoys Ferry Park or the new workout facilities, but I think it's beautiful. Whether I use it every day or not, I'd much rather see that than an eyesore. You know, I don't use the pickleball courts every day, but I love that they're there and they're accessible for people, and I want my kids to have, and their friends and their parents and whoever, to have options that are affordable and that look nice and keep the city from looking run down and forgotten about and neglected, because that's the way the city was looking. And if we're not able to spend the money on our city, you know, it's going to go back downhill, and we're just going to end up right back where we started. Again, I just think that this was misrepresented to the people before the vote last time. I think people thought, oh, this is going to save us as taxpayers so much money. But I don't think my property taxes changed because of this. They didn't. You know, it's just how you guys are able to use them. And this whole thing about the budgeted versus actuals, again, that wasn't clear before the election. It wasn't decided until after people had voted which one it was supposed to be. Was it the budgeted? Was it the actuals? We don't know what we put on the, you know, the election form. So, you know, it was very confusing. I don't think people were well educated on it. I'm still concerned that people are not well educated on this. And I'm really scared for the city and the direction that it's going if this is allowed to stay. So I urge people to get out and vote and educate themselves on the matter, and hopefully they do. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else from the public? Mr. O'Neill?
Yeah, so Kevin O'Neill, I own Destiny Water Adventures, a couple other things here in town. You know, I'm not like a big budget guy. I'm not sitting there staring at QuickBooks every day. I got a guy for that, you know, but one thing we do is that we invest in our people, right? You know, we got good people. I wouldn't have a good business if I didn't have good people. And it's been my experience, again, not really an expert, but when I look at guys trying to sell their businesses, if I'm interested, and they got these crazy numbers that they want, but they can't really show because they've been dodging the tax man for the last 5, 10, 15 years, right? And they've been running everything through their business, and then they go, oh, you know, I want $1 million for this. I'm like, yeah, dude, but on paper, you're broke. On paper, you're in debt. The only reason I'm here today is because a few years ago, I came to council worried about my business. You know, there was these, like, at the time, what I appeared to be draconian regulations across the bridge in Destin, and I didn't want to get swallowed up by the county. You know, you guys are all the neighbors. I don't live in Fort Walton Beach, okay? I live in Navarre, but all my business interests are here in town. And I don't live in Navarre because I don't unincorporate, you know, oh my God, I don't want to pay, you know, city taxes. You know, it's gonna be okay, you know. And I say all that because it's like, you know, you guys as stakeholders here, and I'm a limited stakeholder in town, you're like my neighbors, so to speak. So I come to you, I talk to you, it's like, hey, this is what I think works for Fort Walton Beach as a business guy. You know, this is like what our customers are looking for. This is all my employees, not for nothing, live in Fort Walton Beach, right? And they come here and they go on a boat. Maybe they want to go to a park. Maybe they want to go to a pickleball court. I mean, I don't know what people do with their money when they're on vacation. It's expensive, you know? Expensive to rent a boat, expensive to rent a jet ski. But I can tell you unequivocally that when I go to Orlando, for example, I don't really go to Kissimmee. It's a little bit run down, a little bit gnarly. I mean, it's all indicative, right? It's all an ecosystem, so to speak. At the end of the day, I don't think that the people over in Destin or the people in Shalimar, when we're talking about the county, know what's best. Not for our community, not for our business community, not for my employees. You know, you want to fix stuff. I caught myself. You want to fix something, it's like, it's going to cost money, you know, and I got to pay the tax man just like everybody else. Probably a lot more than whatever it is, your property taxes, the city tax is $1,500, $1,000, I don't know what it is. It's a lot of money. But at the end of the day, I want something sustainable that I can sell if I choose to sell. You know, and I want that to be representative by how great of a business I run, i.e. the reinvestment back into my people. You know, it costs money to run a business, it costs money to run a town. And at the end of the day, if you guys want to at least see that one piece change, the higher paying jobs, then we have to have an ecosystem that's not just good for me or good for you or good for you or good for them. It's got to be good for everybody. All of us living here, you know, properties go up, wages go up. I know it's like, hey, affordable housing. You know, I know it's like been a big thing. Affordable housing. We got to have better paying jobs. You have a better business. And one of our main exports here is tourism. If you want people to come here and stay here and not go back across the bridge and eat at a restaurant in Destin or stay in Destin, you know, things got to kind of look a little bit nicer. They can't just, you know, go to the Asian massage parlor. That's in the news like every 2 minutes. It would be great if maybe that wasn't in the news. There was other things in the news about how great it is to visit here. Am I right? So it's going to cost a few bucks. And you know what? It's going to be okay. We're not going to, you know what I mean? You're going to have plenty of money left at the end of the year. Everything's going to be fine. Pay a few bucks in taxes. We're all going to be okay. 3% cap. It's a little ludicrous. I never want to have to stand in front of the county again, fighting for my life, for my business. I'd rather stand in front of all you good people. And I appreciate all the work you do. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public? Yes, sir.
Randy Bishop, 309 Briarwood Circle. I'd like to say I appreciate the city manager for putting this out to inform the citizens. My opinion is we ought to get it mailed out to every citizen within the city limits. I've voiced my opinion and posted on Nextdoor about it, try to inform people, and there's one gentleman here who likes to criticize everything that goes out. To a public citizen in a public official seat, you know, as part of a group that is trying to sue the Fort Walton Beach City of Fort Walton Beach, I think it's kind of a conflict of interest. You know, if you don't, y'all ran on the promise to serve the people, but I think not protecting the city is not serving the people. So I think that's kind of a conflict of interest, especially on this 3% cap. And I think it should be removed, and I think we ought to get out there and inform the citizens about it and make Fort Walton Beach great, you know. Eventually, the way it's going, if it doesn't pass, you know, eventually we're gonna continue draining, and then we're gonna have to sub out to the county eventually and have county services, which, in my opinion, is a lot slower than having the city fire department, city police officers. So I appreciate y'all's time and y'all taking the time to listen to me.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this? Going once, twice, that's it. We will have another meeting, obviously, before this election as well, or this vote, rather. But we'll just go down the line here and go in the order of council members on the mayor council comments. And tonight, the first draw is you, Mr. Barry. We're not doing mayor council comments, we're still commenting.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was just using this as an order.
Sorry.
Mr. Barry?
No comment at this time.
All right, fair. By the way, no one's forced to make a comment, certainly. Mr. Jeter?
That was a very informative presentation, Mr. Davis. Thank you. That puts a lot of it into layman's terms, and I like the analogy that you used about some House bills that are now we're seeing don't work for us and how we're repealing them. I think I've said up here 2 or 3 times when we have, a first reading and a second reading, you can maybe say, well, this was the first reading. Should there be a second reading? Do we want to change anything? I think that's what we're doing here. I think we did something that we thought was great. And like Miss Denise said, I loved everything that you said, because a lot of us that did grow up here, I have said, I think it was on a radio call the other day, we're right there on the cusp of being awesome and being a great city. And I know we are already, but we can take that next step. And it's not just, not going to happen in 1 year. There's been 5, 6, 7 years of getting the landing done, of getting this bridge coming. We got all this momentum, and it's right here in front of us. And somehow we seem to take 2 steps backwards a lot in Fort Walton Beach, and we can't look forward and realize that you have to, as Mr. O'Neill said, reinvest in your business. I think I said that on the radio. At the end of the year, you have to reinvest in your people. You have to reinvest in your business. If you're not growing, you're dying. And I think this is death by 1,000 cuts. As Mr. Davis said, if you don't spend it, you lose it. So we could continue to go down, down, down every year, and we look up 5 or 10 years from now and not have a city. So to me, this is not about, I have differed up here with some of my best friends on this. I have differed up here with many people in the community on this. To me, this really truly is a city of Fort Walton Beach issue. This isn't to go back against us. I'm on this side, you're on that side. I'm part of this group, you're part of that group. This was the fire fee. Nobody liked it. It got a lot of people out, and we did not want the fire fee. How it's gone from, which the fire fee is gone, and voting yes to all this ensures that the fire fee will always be gone. But how this has gone from a fire fee to not having a city has baffled me from the beginning. I've said I hope we get it right. I don't think we got it right. I've said we need a second reading. I think we have a second reading coming. I think there was a lot of really good analogies used tonight, and now we have some actual data in front of us showing that it's going to be difficult to manage going forward. The previous city manager actually said some of the same things when he came in, and like a lot of us that were on one side, actually then had to abide by it and maybe went to a different side and said, hey, we may not be able to do this. So voting yes ensures no more fire fee. None of us want another fire fee. We don't, but we also don't need to fight for the next 10 years like we have the last 10 years. So updating our charter, removing this cap and these handcuffs, and going about the budget on an annual basis where we get to hear from the citizens on how they want to spend the money. I'm not saying that the budget can't go backwards. I love nothing better in my business than when revenue goes up and expenses go down. I would love to see that happen next year. Let's see revenue go up and expenses go down. If that can happen, that's great. But a lot of times, as revenue goes up, or as beautification projects come, or as you want to keep good talent, expenses do have to go up. They go up across the board. But that's a great presentation. I do hope we get the word out there. I hope a lot of us that are a lot more vocal on social media than me myself, look forward to you guys running with it. I look forward to going door to door. Everyone that I speak to, that's what I'm saying to them. This is voting yes to a great city. We have to remove the handcuffs so that we can grow a great city. So,
Thank you,
I
sir.
can go on forever, but we have some more meetings.
No,
coming
yeah,
up.
that's fine. Councilman Merrill.
I'm not sure who to direct these questions to, maybe finance. How much money is each taxpayer saving? We've instituted the 3%, correct? It's in place.
Yeah, we weren't required to, but we're doing it this year as a pilot just to make sure, just to figure stuff out, right?
So in that presentation, I didn't see how much money each individual taxpayer saves.
None.
Would it be?
Regarding the cap, none.
$0.
I'm with you where before I got on council, go back a year and a half, I went to a big election, voting day, all the big names on the internet, on TV, the Trump-Harris election, and then you turn the page and there's some judges and appointments, and then you turn the page and there's some charter amendments. And I voted, happily tell you, I voted for council to keep their salaries. Because I thought, I learned what they were. I don't know if everybody knows they were $400. I was like, oh, I thought it was like $78,000 a year. When I learned that before I voted, I was like, well, I'll do that. And then I voted to end the assessment because I, as a business owner, would have joined what was the original watch group. And then I voted to put in place the 3% cap. because there's something called institutional distrust. That's why Doge came into the big government, because everybody's like, it's all corrupt. It's all corrupt, there's corruption going on. Let's control the spending, let's save money. Now, come on council, and I've learned quite a bit. So, and the reason I bring that up is because we'll probably hear that we're going against the will of X amount of voters. I was one of those voters, so I think we need to change the numbers. I think there's other voters out there, I've talked to others. And now that they understand that anybody who wants this cap is looking at some ulterior motive to shrink the government, to remain willfully ignorant, or because they want revenge against the city for the fire assessment. And I can't sit back and go, well, we'll just keep it because some people are going to get mad. I'm going to do whatever I can to, I hate this kind of stuff. I hate math, I hate meetings, I hate all this, okay? It's not my thing. But I agreed to do this job for the reasons I joined to do the job, and now the rest of it has come into play, and I feel like I have to do it with excellence. And if I'm going to represent the people of the city, and we want to keep the city, we don't want to shrink the city into consolidation with the county, then I think that we need to be truthful with our constituents and say, this is what this actually does. If we want to have a conversation about saving taxpayer money, if we want to have a conversation about other checks and balances, about what we spend the money on, that can happen, that happens. We can voice our opinions. I want that. Everybody up here wants that from the people. But to put some blanket cap under the guise that it's going to save taxpayers money, that it's going to control spending, when you look at real world situations that have happened, a $70,000 salary replaced by a $200,000 contract, because the $70,000 to replace that salary, that money needed to go elsewhere to move around this cap. If you can't defend that, I would love for the 3 or 4 remaining members of what is now the watch group to come and give a presentation to show how that math works. Not, this is the will of the voters, and this is how we feel, and let's just give it a try. And you guys, show me the real world situations and the real world math where this helps our city flourish. And then, beyond that, let's read between the lines. Let's look at the distrust, the unease, the lack of future opportunities for the very people, our neighbors that work at the city, that love the city, that care about the city, and they go, well, there's no future here. The training grounds for other fire departments, it's embarrassing. Why aren't we the place where people want to go? You said it. Look, why can't we be the beautiful city? Why can't we be the place that people want to come for employment, that people want to visit? Where are you from? Fort Walton. Where's that? Destin. Oh, okay, I know where that is. What are we doing? And this doesn't help us create Fort Walton Beach as the place to be, and we should be. I know the leadership, I know the staff, I know the residents. I grew up here. I love this city. I'm not a government insider. I have a little institutional distrust myself. Okay? I want to shrink the orders. I want to pull back the stuff. But this doesn't help us. I'll leave it at that because I'll keep going.
Councilwoman Riley.
Thank you, Mayor. One, I feel honored to go behind you, Ben, because I love to talk. And so, you know what? I'm not the only person that talk. But, I totally 100% agree with Ben. And so I'm going to expound just a little bit on that. And I can tell you all, and I'm being as truthful and transparent as I can possibly be from day one, when I was sitting out there in this chamber, and I heard those 3 amendments come about. I stood at that podium and I said, this is utterly ridiculous. It's so frustrating to have something like this come before you and then got to go to the voting polls and vote on a 3% cap. One, I can tell you right now, I am government structure. That's all I've ever really worked for, was the government. So I'm not any knowledgeable to anybody else, but I can tell you my experience as working for the government, and I've done it. I've retired from state government, ran federal, contracts. And so I'm accustomed to working for the government. And what I can tell you, you're absolutely right, Mr. Davis. Use it or lose it. Retention rates, you got to look at all of that. I stood before that podium and I said, nothing against the voters, but what I did say is, When you put something out like this, you must educate your city, educate the voters. You cannot give them false hope. You got to be truthful, you have to be honest, you got to be transparent, and lay it out clear and concise so they understand what they're voting on. I looked at, and I'm looking at Mr. Daniel, Public Works. I looked at that and I stood in that podium and I said, the average voter does not even know the allocation methodology for the equipment that he has to purchase. The average person don't realize that you have to disposition, and most of the time it's a minimum of 3 to 5 years on your equipment, and then you got to replace it. So you got to look at your employees as well. It's a lot of circumstances around, and that was a beautiful presentation, Mr. Davis. And every resident that stood before that podium, I agree with every one of you on what you said. I believe in promoting local businesses and advocating for local business. I believe in working for the people. I've been all about the people. I always have worked for the people. And I think it's just utterly ridiculous that we live, and I say it all the time, in a beautiful seaside community. A beautiful seaside community. Why? Why would we want to cap our budget at 3%? Because gas may be $2.94 now. 2 years down the road, it's $4.25. So, how are you supposed to be able to manage? It's all about affordability, but it's also about the citizens. And I can tell you right, a city cannot thrive without taxation. And now if you know a better way, make it make sense, and let me know. Educate me on that one. Because you cannot. And I do understand paying taxes. The average person do want lower taxes. But if you want the quality of life, if that's what you're looking for, or do you want a ratchet city to live in, then you choose. What do you want? Quality of life, well-being, a healthy means to raise your children and your families, and a way to give back to the city, then I think you need to really think about that 3% cap. And honestly, when you're thinking about it, think about the employees of the city as well. Because you got to think about the retention rate. When that retention rate started increasing, you got a problem on your hand. You got a problem on your hand when you cannot fulfill positions and you're losing employees, and you got to take one FTE full-time employee and use them as 3 FTEs, and you're not paying them enough money. And I'm not going to continue it, but I want you all to know I am totally 100% against the 3% cap in the 3 amendments. Always have been. So this is nothing new under the sun for me. I just want our city to grow, economic-wise, and to have a healthy way of life.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Schmidt.
Really enjoying this spirited debate, and this is the most local politics you could get, and this is what it's all about, people showing up and discussing. But a couple questions on the presentation, and Mayor, push this out to who you need to, but I know we don't have our audited numbers, our audited actuals we saw in the presentation, but we were tracking actuals. Do we have what our October through December actuals are in 2025 compared to our October through December 2024 actuals?
Ms. Members.
We have a link on our finance portion of the website. It's when you click on finance, you click budget to actual. We have through December. We have 25 and 26.
Do we know what that is what I'm getting to. Our actuals through the first quarter of this current budget year compared to actuals.
It's on there. Yeah, we have.
Compared to the actuals of the previous year first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to back into what the contrast is, if any.
You're talking about charter? So we have the charter amendment. We're following the charter amendment
Just
on
the
website.
actuals for October through December?
I don't have it for all funds, no. We have it for what the charter amendment covers.
So the operation and personnel?
Yes.
So what's the actuals for the operation and personnel?
So right now, as of December, we are for payroll, we are at a 1.93% increase.
Compared to what?
Hold on, my old eyes, hold on.
It's all right.
Let's see, so our 2026 actual and payroll is $6,019,304.40.
And is that 6 billion number represents?
That's all payroll, all funds.
Is that budgeted? Is that October?
That's actual.
From October through December?
Mm-hmm, that's correct.
Okay, so 6 million of personnel payroll.
That's correct.
Okay.
And then our 2025 was $5,905,000 $139.70. And again, this is all on the website.
Okay, so it's gone up a little bit, but within.
Yeah, that accounts for the 1.93.
Thank you, Nicole, I appreciate that. A couple things I want to address. The gentleman that's no longer here from Atlanta, addressed us as far as wanting us to repeal it. I know sometimes we may be submerged in this, and we may know way more than this than what we may want to, but I just want to kind of address the few engaged citizens that are here. Y'all probably already know this, but it's up to the electorate on March 10th to make this decision. Again, I think y'all are well aware of that. I think he was too, but I just want to make sure that we're clear on that was determined. That's our chain of command as the electorate. That message was sent November 2024. A lot of good debate up here on what we like and don't like. Our marching orders came. We have a great staff that's going to work to navigate, and like Nicole gave us the actuals, they're a little bit up from the previous year's first quarter. So just want to clarify for those the few that are listening and the few that are here, we at this point have no authority to repeal anything. It's up to the electorate. Second thing, capital improvement projects are exempt. Those things aren't going to be impacted by the 3% cap. That stuff like pickleball courts and the equipment at the ferry park and those kind of things are the budget that the council approves each year that has capital improvement projects in there. That's what's going to determine what new projects we can get. Every year there's capital improvement projects that get deferred because there's only so much money to spend. That's before the cap, after the cap. So the exempt that the capital improvement has, we're still going to have nice things. My theory and my philosophy is this budget that we have approved ultimately, we have given some solid restrictions to staff, not because of a 3% cap, but we decided to, I know some people use the word invest, but we have programs that are, that are competing with the early learning community that they provide at Elliott Point and other institutions that we've decided to invest in the after-school program and the summer daycare program currently at a 6-figure loss. That operation and personnel expense could be shifted to adding an FTE to better manage expansion of parks or those kind of things. So that's a budget cycle debate and preparing for the budget kind of stuff. So in that sense, staff has to go execute the budget that we approved. I'm making the argument that there's things inside the budget that we've decided to invest in or decide to operate with, like that Early Learning Coalition, that I'm not advocating for us to not educate the early learning, but there's those programs going on inside of our community that are outside of the City of Fort Walton Beach budget that could operate so that we could use that $150,000, $200,000 to go play with and do other programs like maintain parks and do things like that. So I just wanted to address a couple of those things. I was curious about where we're at with actuals, as well as to the electorate March 10th. Like Mr. Jeter mentioned, go door to door, continue to champion whatever you think is best. But also heard some information up here about like Destin. This is the pass through to Destin. We're going to be the greatest city in the world no matter what. Our neighbors, our comp, where multiple people do businesses in Destin, they hardly have any services in-house. And I'm not advocating for us to go that direction. But point I'm getting to, there's a lot of I don't want people's blood pressure to raise and thinking the city's going to decay, that we've already had a discussion up here that people pass through Fort Walton to go to Destin. Those services aren't provided by the city of Destin. A lot of the things that we're saying that we're going to lose if this 3% cap doesn't pass, which I'm not convinced that we will lose. I just think we need to have a reinvestment in the different programs that we're currently having in our current budget, things like early learning, and let the Early Learning Coalition do that in the City of Fort Walton Beach, get out of those things. So we're going to be a great city, the greatest city in the world, regardless of how it happens March 10th. I enjoy the spirited conversations and the concerns that people may have. The capital improvement projects being exempt, whatever our budget approves and what happens is irrelevant of the 3% cap because it's exempt. And get out there and vote March 10th.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Walker.
So much, so much here. Thank you, Jason, for that white paper. Thank you, everyone up here, for your debate and engagement in it. Thank you, Nicole, for your finances that you send over to Jason. Thank you for that weekly report that gives us all the big picture. It's just so helpful to wrap our mind around everything that's going on, and there's a lot going on. And so I had some prepared notes, which I'll get to in a second, but listening to everyone up here, I wrote down a couple of additional things. Right before I walked in the door, I sent an email to Ms. Barnes, and in it is a white paper that I've requested that you send to all council members here and attach to the minutes of this meeting for the public, because I didn't make a presentation on it, but if anybody that wants to come see it, it'll be attached to the minutes. They can request it from you, or please pass it on to the council, because while Jason, I know that as our CEO, essentially is what you are, I've known a lot of great CEOs in my life, and they're just, the difference between a great one and a poor one is you know it when you see them. The poor ones don't last long. But the good ones, something I always admired about them is they're great problem solvers. And I know that you're working on solving the problems. And what I wanted to dig into a little bit with you is, through this problem solving that you've been facing, I was a little surprised that we've not had a special meeting called on it, that the timing of your white paper coincides with the upcoming election related to overturning the will of over 6,000 people and the system that it came out of. So I'm definitely concerned about that, but I know that, problem solving is the CEO's job. And all of your discussions with all of your directors about all of these problems that you brought up here, other than overturning the will of the people, were there, through repealing that resolution, were there any standout from any of your directors, or even on your own, any standout solutions? Go, you know what? I think that's a great idea. I think we can do that. David just brought up one there a second ago. Was there anything from that time? I know you've got some notes on the problems. Do you have any good notes on the solutions that your team brought to you, or you brought to them, talking about how you might solve these problems?
So, the solutions are what we're navigating now, right? Mm-hmm. That's how we're getting around. I feel like I hate using that term, that we're getting around, figuring out how to do it, but the solutions are so far to cancel the fire education campaign, punt on adding any services for seniors, or adding another rowing program of sorts for the children, those sorts of things. So those are the solutions right now. That's how we're staying in the cap. That answers your question.
Great, yeah, great to hear that. You had mentioned that 12 left due to the cap. Do you have those exit interviews available for us all?
No.
It's just 12 told you that was the reason?
The department directors, somebody had asked, I don't remember who asked me,
Okay, I wasn't sure if exit interviews were taking place.
I was asked for a quantity, so I emailed the department directors saying, hey, give me a count from your respective sections.
Gotcha.
And that was the count that came back.
You and I think a couple of the other members had mentioned the contracting out of the personnel from the marking, the flags, from the utilities and whatnot. I remember that from a few years back, because I remember when we went away from in-house to out-of-house, and now it's being increased, the dollars that we're spending on it. And I think Mr. Payne was here last meeting and we talked about it, and the question was asked specifically why the increase, and I believe his response was along the lines of due to the increased amount of flagging that's going on. But also remember, he mentioned that contracting out removes the risk from the city and it places it on a contractor. Mr. Payne, is that true?
I think any contractor has some inherent risk. I don't know of any contract that we have that says we're still liable, if that's the question.
In-house, one of our employees goes out and they stick in an electrical or a plumbing line, and it's drastic, it's major outage, internet, whatever the case may be. A utility is struck by one of our people. Who bears the responsibility for that, us or a contractor?
So from a liability perspective, if the city contracts out functions,
the city is still going to be responsible. It's just you also have an additional responsible party, the contracted out entity. So it's more like a shared liability.
So it's reduced liability.
That's the way lawsuits work, are that you sue both parties and they figure out who has the higher percentage of fault. So the city's fault doesn't go to zero, so it could be 100% if the contractor can show that the city was at fault.
If the city was at fault, then they have their own insurance on that. Okay, thank you. Just out of curiosity, because I know it was in recent time, we talked. You brought youth athletics. Youth athletics is important to every one of us up here. Sure. And that issue was before us recently with the Shalimar Little League wanting to come over and take over operations here. It was a recommendation from the staff in the rec department. Had we gone that route, would that have increased or decreased our expenses in personnel?
Well, if you add games and add players, right? So it's obviously an increase for sure.
But with Shalimar Little League taking it over, running the operation as opposed to the city running the operation, wasn't that the...
I don't think Wendy's here. I don't think that was the end goal.
Okay. I was curious if that was... Okay, because I know we didn't join up with them, or they didn't join up with us. Also, before your time, the Studer study, are you familiar with it?
That's what I referenced in that quality of life study.
That's right. Did you overlook or just not catch the part where the Studer group recommended to us that we should not be in the golf course management business or the cemetery management business?
I don't recall that, but I have it, so no,
okay.
If I missed it, that's fine too.
Yeah, because the white paper that I've provided to Kim, and it'll go out to everyone else, it focuses on the opportunities. Obviously, you're in the battlefield, and it's easy to focus on the problems. But this white paper that I've shared with you and the others, it focuses on the opportunities, not only for us as an organization to become more efficient and save taxpayers' dollars, but it shows the taxpayers how such a mandate that they placed on us to operate under can turn out to be just an absolutely wonderful thing for them. That's what they wanted. You had referenced, I think it was you who had referenced the poor leadership referenced by citizens. I don't doubt it. I'm not surprised at all. They were so disappointed in us. They came out with their money, and the way we had been spending it as a body, they came out and overwhelmingly told us, we're going to place a cap on you. You guys don't seem to be doing it well by yourself. We're going to do it for you. And they also said you're not going to have any pay, and this is to be a servant leadership job, not for pay and money, because I believe they believe that when money and benefits come in, it can corrupt this body. And lastly, on that, the social media that you've referenced has not been a part. I respect that. You don't have to be a part of it. I wished you would. I wish everybody would get into it. I think it's the new town square. And I know that our founding...
The way of the world now.
And our founding of this great nation was founded on just vigorous, hard debate of great discussions and great topics of great importance. And so when I hear all of us, even when I disagree or y'all disagree with me, I love to see it going on because I know it brings out the best. And if we'll stay in this way, and I know that one of the things, one of the previous bodies, it was frustrated to me that no one spoke up here. No one spoke up here. And then people started showing up at the podium and engaging us, and we engaged them, and now we're all engaging with each other. So I appreciate that from all of us. Even when I don't agree with you, I appreciate it because it leads to better for us all. So I appreciate that. Nicole, and just while I've got it, and we are talking about personnel, so I went and looked at budgets on there, and I know on the radio we were chatting and it popped up. Mr. Jeter and Mr. Browning both brought up ClearGov. And then you commented on it. Is ClearGov working or not working?
No, the ClearGov is our budget software.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
it is 100% working, but we don't have the Transparency Center. If you remember, at the end of last year, it kept giving the wrong numbers when we sat together. So I saved the city $16,000 of paying that module each year because it wasn't giving the citizens correct information. So with the new finance software, Finance Enterprise, we'll be able to put out a new system that will show. But for now, we have that little link that I just talked about earlier to be able to see the charter amendment budget to actuals.
Right, and so when I go to there, I go and look at the current and the previous, the Excels. You know, that's a little trickier, but ClearGov is still just showing 23 numbers as of 23. Is that correct?
You shouldn't see ClearGov at all. There's no citizen-facing ClearGov. It's only internal budget software now.
ClearGov is still on the website, fwb.org, ClearGov, click it, it's right there.
Okay.
And so you go look at it, it shows up as 23. So that's, you know,
I'll take a look at it. It shouldn't be up there at all.
That's accurate. So then I went and looked at, so I like to compare years, so I went back 10 years because I wanted to see what's been happening to the growth and looking at trends. So I went back to 15 and 16, and I saw the personnel expense then was for 292 FTEs was $17,800,000 and some change. I won't bore you the rest of it. Then I went to 25 and 26, and each one of those budget Excel spreadsheets always changes. Always something changing, the way it's laid out, what it's called, departments merge and that kind of stuff. So 25 and 26, I went and looked at the Excel. I cannot for the life of me find a grand total of personnel expense for the 25-26 budget. Did you read, you just said the first or the last quarter you referenced one. What, do you know what the budget is for the 25-26?
I don't have it on me right now, but we did present it
Personnel?
in the budget workshop.
Okay, I can't find it in that spreadsheet
we
for
can
the
send it
life
to you.
of me. Thank you. And then just notes of interest, we've gone from 292 FTEs up to this, right now our current budget shows 320 FTEs. So that's a difference of 28. And I know that when DOJ, did we hear back from DOJ?
No, they said we're not on their radar.
Okay, well, I know one of the things I've noticed about DOJ reports when they're engaging with other cities is it looks like they're trying to tie growth, spending personnel, expenses, and all of that to population growth. So we've had 28 employees added from 15-16 to current, that's 292 to 320. And then, so I went and looked, and Chief Beige, are you back there? Yeah, you're Chief Beige, you're back there. You know, with the charter amendment coming up, 2198, and what it may or may not do if voters pass it and whatnot, I looked in 15 and 16, we had 61 officers, FTEs, in the police department. I didn't grab their budget numbers at that time, but today we're at 78 FTEs in the police department. So that's a difference of 17. Chief, would you, can I ask you a question at the podium?
Sure.
Oh, sorry, Mayor. Let me ask the chief a question. So, 15 and 16, we had 61 FTEs. That includes staff.
15, 16?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That includes all of the staff.
So I started at 19, so I may have to stretch my memory a little bit to go back in time.
Really, what I'm going to be looking for is a big picture response, because what I'm trying to look at is from 61 to 78, not knowing what the budget was. Then today we're at 9.2 for the police department, and we've got 78. Going from 61 to 78, would you attribute that increase to?
So one, they're not all sworn officers. That makes up both sworn and civilian personnel in the police station.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say 78, it's not 78 sworn officers. We have dispatch, crime, and other positions. When I first came here in 2019, we added 3 through a community policing grant to start a COPS program. Then when a year or two later, we added another 3 or 4 officers to establish a 4th zone, because the council and residents at the time wanted better police presence, especially up in the Kenwood neighborhood. So that accounts for 7 of them. Then at one point, we added a quality of life officer, which was an 8th person that was added to the budget. And then recently, when we took in Troy Williams, came to take over code enforcement, when it was merged into the police department. So those are 9 that I can count for off the top of my head I have to go back and look what happened between 15, 16, 17, 18 prior to my arrival, and then what happened in 19 once I got here to figure out why we had those increases. I can tell you back prior to 2010, because I have counted pictures in a yearbook that we have at the station, we had way more personnel back in 2010 and actually downsized by about 15 people in 2010, and we're probably getting back to 2010 numbers now.
Yeah, I looked at 10 and 11 for the whole body ourselves, and there was a period of exuberance, it seemed, back in that time. I think it was right at 300 back then, and so there was a decrease that followed it. I think the economic downturn played a part in that, so everything went down. But yeah, so of the 28 employees increased to the size of the city with no population growth, 17 have been added to the police department, whether that's admin or sworn officers. I didn't break it down in that sense.
The other thing, Mr. Walker, too, I'm going back through the budget books in my mind right now, and they're very long books, so it takes a little bit of time to go through my mind. We also transferred some people out of the CRA back to the police department, because for a while there were several officers that were in the CRA. Those officers now, we only have, I believe, 2.5 officers in the CRA, where at one time I think we had up to 5 officers in the CRA budget. So there's also transfer between line items on the budget, which may adjust the FTE count. And the FTE is full-time equivalent, so a lot of those are also school crossing guards or part-time employees that get added in. I don't know in 15 if we were mandated at that point to have school crossing guards or not, but now we are mandated to have school crossing guards in different positions.
Yeah, because that's, I mean, personnel, that's what this 3% cap is the biggest, you know, it's the biggest part of our budget. I think it's at 54%.
And it's 3% at best, because it's...
At best, correct. And unless it's CPI, of course, is less.
Real quick, too.
Yeah.
One of the code personnel that we recently added, so they have 4 there now. That was a reclassification of an existing position from a different department. I don't remember which department. But to speak to population for personnel, that's one metric to use. And I don't know that I wholly agree with it. It should be tied back to the services you offer. So, for example, we're expanding Ferry Park, Preston Hood. Ways to look at that to justify staff are 1, personnel per acre. So how many acres of parks do we have? How many people does that take? And the type of park you have. So whether it's a tennis court or a field out back that we just have to mow, there's 2 different levels of staffing required, right? So rather than just say, hey, you've only had 22,000 people for 100 years, how many services have you added and what kind of special services that require additional personnel? It's a different metric.
Sure.
So just to qualify that.
And Councilman Walker, we used to discuss this all the time back in 2020 when you showed up to the council meetings before you came on the dais about service population versus residential population, which goes to Mr. Davis's point, is that our residential population may be 22,000, but when you look at the land usage of the city, it's only 50% residential, 50% non-residential, and our service population is well in excess of 22,000. So if we were to police just for the 22,000 people, all the people that this gentleman spoke about that come here for Destin Water Sports, for people that come for employment, because at one time we had the #1 employment zip code in Okaloosa County, we would be neglecting services to people that are still within the city limits.
Thank you, because that reminds me, last meeting, someone, Mr. Payne might have been, but there were 9,000 residential doors and 1,000 commercial. Oh, it was on the trash. And I was like, wow, okay, so we've got 9,000 doors, 1,000 commercial. And then, by the way, Chief, I think I still have it in my outbox to you on that email where you responded to me about the numbers that I provided in that meeting that you were out regarding the police services in Destin and compared them to Fort Walton and the disparities there. So I do still owe you one there on that, and I'll get that out to you.
Councilman, just real quick.
Yeah.
From a fire perspective, the fire response, when I worked on the fire union contract, one of the ways I justified the salary that we were negotiating, their calls for service have grown exponentially, and that's opioid, that sort of thing. So not so much on fires, but on medical,
Sure. I mean, yeah, Destin had, one other thing, just curiosity, they had 36,000 calls. We had 31,000 calls. They did it with 21 officers. You corrected me from 17 officers, I thought it was. They did it with 21 officers, and we have 53 or 56.
Mr. Walker, you also missed the Destin. In the article I sent you, they also equated about $1.5 million in salaries that is not charged to the Destin contract. Because they talked about outside additional services that Destin receives from the county as a whole.
And I've got it as a draft, and I was like, well, Chief, as a city resident, property owner that pays taxes to the county, I would greatly appreciate some of the police services that I pay to the sheriff's department to come to us in that way. So Destin's getting what I would want, which is some of my tax dollars coming in here to assist my police department. They've done it for $3 million. We're doing it for $9 million. So I think there's some room to save taxpayers' money there.
I was saying they also gave the closest comparator to Destin, which was Panama City Beach, and they gave a $19 million policing for Panama City Beach. And then they also compared Niceville, which had a more realistic officer per dollar amount. And Destin is an anomaly, and I agree with you that they are heavily subsidized by the county, but I think that argument is at the county commission and probably not here at the city council level.
Right, yes, and the other thing, and I did see that as well, I was quite surprised at the similarities between Destin and Fort Walton and the land. I think it's 7.3 square miles in Fort Walton and 7.1 in Destin. So, the area that's being covered here is compared in Panama City and those other places you've referenced. So I've definitely been trying to figure out what the $6 million question is. Why is it it's costing city taxpayers $9 million for what Destin's getting for $3 million? Same square footage. They've got more residential doors than we do by a ton. They took 5,000 more calls than we did, and they did it with 21 officers, and we got 53. So that white paper that I've provided, I should have included, I'll forward it to you as well. It talks about the synergies between consolidation and sharing of services, HR departments and all. So look forward to sharing that with you and discussing it. That's all I have for now, Mr. Mayor. I know. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Jason.
All right. Sorry. That was a lot to get out. Councilman Brown.
All right. I just have a few questions. I have some questions for Mr. Davis if you're
Sure, absolutely, go ahead.
So I've got some weird phone calls over the past few days about financial reports. So as a city, do we have financial reports?
That's what Nicole was talking about. They're Excel spreadsheets because we have a
DOS-based system that
We have a system that I haven't personally seen since 1999. It is not physically capable of doing all the cool stuff that Destin does, but the one we're building out now will have all those cool toys. So the answer is yes, but Marcus creates
Yep.
those. So
Yep.
Marcus will create them.
And Cognos, he
and
created
Devin
the
uploads
spreadsheets.
them.
Okay, so we do have.
Yes, they're on the
Okay.
website.
That threw me for a loop there. And then just touching on this, so one thing that I didn't see on there was reserves. So how much money in reserves have we spent since implementing this?
Well, I mean, kind of a loaded question. I'll make sure I understand. So FGOA, GFOA says we have to have 2 months of reserves, which is about 30%. I think we're at 33%, so we're healthy there and not something we want to dip into. It's not something I could use for a project anyway without coming back to council saying, hey, I gotta hit reserves. Is that what you're asking?
No, so we've been briefed that $5 million was pulled from reserves to offset the budget.
I'm sorry. No, I understand. So
We haven't spent any reserves yet,
Right.
but if we were to spend everything, we would have to dip into the reserves. So my goal as a finance director is not to spend all of that.
yeah, I think, again, the different context. So we normally start in January, right? I got here in June of last year, so it was a very expedited budget process. Some of the things that we chewed through, gift cards. All the staff got a Christmas bonus, a $50 gift card to God knows wherever. Unfortunately, we had to stop that, right? It's statutorily not cool. It also was like $15,000, $16,000 by the time you bought all this. So that's one thing we pulled back, right? Process improvement. All of the individual departments built in I mean, for me, it's a slush fund. So I don't agree with that approach because what was happening historically, again, this is what was given to me folklore style, council would say, hey, I want this project now. So it was not in the original budget. So the individual departments would say, hey, cool, we had that contingency budget because we were expecting this. I have no problem telling council, no, we're not doing that, or we're going to pull a project out that we've already agreed that we were going to do, right? So we got rid of that money, and that was the 5 million, I think, ish. How we budget?
The contingency,
balance
so by Florida statute, in the budget each year we were doing, since I came on a long time before me, you can budget up to 10% of your revenues in your contingencies, which is an account that you can do budget transfers from. So if you go over budget in supplies, you take that transfer and transfer over so you're not over budget. Historically, we had budgeted 1%. The past 2 years, we had budgeted 3%. So we took that out, which I think in the general fund, certain funds aren't allowed to have it, like the CRA fund's not allowed to have it statutorily, certain special revenue funds can't have it, but I think just in the general fund alone was about 900,000 in expenses, and so they sit in like a non-departmental department, and so if Public Works needs something because it went over budget, or a council member said they wanted X, Y, and Z done. We just transferred over, like, okay, well, we didn't plan for it in the budget, but we have this account over here that we can move it over so we can get that done for the staff member that needs it because of an emergency or because the council member wanted it. If that
So that's no longer a thing, right, going forward? I look at it as just like a big piece of pizza. So if this department needs to, we can line-to-line items. That's kind of how I strategize that. So does that answer your question now?
Yeah, it does.
Clear like mud?
Clear like mud. So capital improvements, Mr. Schmidt brought up capital improvements. So once those capital improvements are done, who takes care of those projects?
I mean, that's the million-dollar question, right? So we can do all the capital projects we want. We can enterprise fund anything we want. The operations still, the staff and that stuff comes out of operations. So we keep adding parks, I got to keep adding dudes.
And then something interesting that came up was mentioning CPI or 3%, whichever's lower. That's a big thing that people don't mention a lot, is that it's 3% or CPI, whichever's lower. And just looking it up now, sitting here, it's 2.2. So if the city, if the year was in right now, and I know it's only February, CPI is only 2.2, so we're arguing 3%. We're not even gonna touch it. So it's just something to keep in mind. You know, there's been a lot of conversation about all this stuff and the saving taxpayers money and saving all these things and name calling, all these things that's been brought up, it's all been said and done, and I think everything I can say, somebody can caveat off of it. Everything they can say, I can caveat off of it. I just hope you get out and get educated. Call us, anybody you'd like to talk to, call city manager, city staff, talk to anybody, and just learn about this stuff, because it will directly impact your life and your services here in the city of Fort Walton Beach. And I will be voting yes on all of these amendments. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. I will just add my own comment of everyone make sure to vote and make sure to tell a friend, a family member, etc. You know, I agree with the people up here that said this local government is the most easy form of government for you to have a massive impact, and it's also the one that impacts your life the greatest. Not the federal government, not the state government, but your local government, our city. And if we care about our city, then we should care about its elections. And we have one on March 10th, and I hope that everyone will share with their friends, family members, acquaintances, business associates, anybody that you know that lives in the city. Hey, what have you heard about this? Let's have a conversation. And those kind of things often are the most impactful. So appreciate the discussion. Thanks to everybody that showed up that wanted to discuss that. We'll now move ahead in our agenda to item number 7, which is the consent agenda. Council, do you have any action on this item?
Discussion.
Is that your motion, Councilman?
Yes. A motion. Oh, sorry.
So I have a motion by Councilman Walker to approve the consent agenda minus item 7.3, which we will move directly after this motion, seconded by Councilman Schmidt. Any additional discussion? Council, please vote. And that does pass unanimously, which brings us to item 7.3. Do we have anyone here to speak to that? Fixed asset disposals, Ms. Neighbors?
Sounds like something fun I would do.
Love disposal.
This is just an administrative item that we have to do and bring to council. We do it every year after the fiscal year ends. It's just items that we disposed of in the city that we sold at auction or we traded in. So we take the list, this is a list that we give to the auditors have this list, and we just have to formalize it with council approving it.
Thank you, ma'am. Questions, Councilman Walker?
Yeah, I just wanted to get a little bit clarity on that. I know recently, if anyone's seen it at the county, there's been some discussion about disposal of certain things, surplus items and whatnot. So I kind of wanted to get, and I just looked at one there, $249,000 jumped out at me. So I ran over to the side, and it looks like it was put in service August of 2008, and then there's an 8/25/25. Was that sold, auctioned, or what does the date out on the far right mean? Let me look.
I don't know.
That is asset retired date. So wanting to get a little clarity, because one of the things I'm hearing that they've got beef with what happened up there was that people weren't aware that it was available to them. It went to someone they thought maybe had some inside knowledge, and it never made it out to the public. So how would the public
They
know?
put it out on,
BidNet?
Yeah, BidNet or something. It all goes publicly out there.
Okay.
Yeah, the purchasing department puts it out there.
So will it go out there after this is approved, or it's already out there?
So once they decide to dispose of it, it goes through the department and the director signs off. Then it goes to purchasing and our warehouse and they sign off. Depending if it's IT will have to sign off, or if it's fleet, they'll have to sign off.
Okay.
And I sign off. And then the comptroller signs off. And then we're allowed to put it up for auction or dispose if it's obsolete.
Okay. Well, I know as a body, we do better with, that was kind of one of the concerns, that it was donated, and that had it been made public or advertised better or more, whatever else, the county could have gotten some more money back for it. And I don't know what all's on here, what might get us some good return, but obviously good marketing or advertising of this. Do you come back and say, hey guys, all that list you did, it's about to go on there, or does it go on at different times?
I can do some more research. Honestly, I'm not in the purchasing department every day.
Okay.
I don't know that level of it and how it
Okay.
works, but if you shoot me an email or something, I can get you some information.
Okay,
on it.
perfect. All right, thank you.
Anyone else questions on this? Councilman Schmidt?
I'm in the market for a 12-seater van.
I'm like, we just keep on growing.
Yeah, looking through that closely. But no, good question, Payne. It's a lot of neat items on there. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anyone else questions? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, council, do you wish to take any action tonight?
Mr. Mayor, I move that pass item 7.3 as recommended by staff.
Motion made by Councilman Walker, seconded by Councilman Merrill, to take staff's recommendation under the consent agenda item 7.3. Any additional comments? Council, please vote. It does pass unanimously, which brings us to mayor and council comments. Start with Mr. Berry.
Interesting conversation about we're going broke and we don't have any money and taxes. Very interesting. We are not broke. We just have to learn to live within our means. And I know that's hard for you to think about this here. We have the taxes, and putting a cap on it. I've had to live like this all my life, and it works. We just have to live within our means. I know it's going to be hard for some people to think, especially with the city employees and all, but I want us to learn to live within our means. As far as senior activities, what I've suggested, it's not going to cost you any money for the senior activities. I provide activities there out of my own pocket, and we have a ball. And they're shoving money in my pocket, saying, please, let's have some more of this. So I can have a couple more activities, no problem. But we have to learn how to live within our means. You can sour face all you want to. Our population hasn't grown. We don't know what's going to go with our state legislation, with our property taxes. we have to take that into consideration also. Let's live within our means.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Jeter?
Can we no longer save till the end? This is our last? Or are we doing both now?
We're doing both, bro.
I'm joking. I saved it.
We're doing both. Councilman Merrill. Councilwoman Riley. Councilman Schmidt.
Appreciate Park and Recs. I attended this past weekend at our Prestonwood Sports Complex in February, obviously the month that we're in. Very shoulder time of the year. Multiple fields being filled up with ball players that were from the Destin, Fort Walton Beach area, not all far travel ballers, that were in this community and leaving in between games and spending money in these local businesses. Just again, want to shout out our recreation crew for these type of things that our budget has grown from last year to this year, and we're doing beautiful capital improvement projects. Thankful to Mr. Jeter and our tourist development department that we're going to be able to grow that program even more, and we're going to continue to maintain it. We're going to have some difficult conversations in the budget process on things like if we want to stay in the early learning business, or do we want to shift some of that over to staffing some of our FTE that could go over there and better maintain that expansion, those kind of things. So shout out to David and the crew and Park and Recs. Beautiful tournament. It was a beautiful turnout in a season that normally doesn't have a whole bunch of tourists. So also too, I wasn't able to make it, but I heard it was a good turnout and a good ceremony. Chief for the boat got pushed in and part of the ceremony. Looking forward to Lake Earl and those kind of services getting cleaned up and getting those derelict vessels and starting that process and getting it out. So that's all I got, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Walker.
I'll save it till the end. Thank you.
Councilman Brown.
I'll save it for the end.
I will also save my comments. That brings us to public comment. You don't have to save your comments if you're here as a member of the public and you would like to comment on something that's not on tonight's agenda. You may come on up to the podium, just tell us your name and your address. We'll give you 5 quality minutes and you can tell us about anything you love or hate or whatever. Seeing none, we'll move to item 10, resolutions on first reading. Resolution 2026-04, a resolution to approve the USDHS ICE stipend funding. Chief Page.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is almost the identical item that was brought in front of Council a few months ago. Last fiscal year, the United States Department of Homeland Security provided stipend funding for agencies that had 287G officers. We have 9 287G officers at the agency, so we're eligible for a $15,000 stipend per officer per quarter. I know at the last meeting there were some questions asked about how we enforce and how we work our 287G. I provided the data. We had made 4 arrests last year for immigration violations. And we had additionally made 3 more, so we're up to 7 now. The last 3 came from the massage parlors that were brought up earlier. And the immigration arrests seem to have now stopped the activities at the massage parlors. And like I stated before, we use our immigration authority to better leverage community safety and services within the city of Fort Walton Beach. So I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Chief, just for clarification, because I know you said this before, and I think you kind of alluded to it right there as well, but your officers are not going out actively looking for people who are violating immigration. You are going out investigating crimes, things that happen, and then during the course of that investigation, if there is an immigration violation, you are now able to process that violation, correct?
100%.
Thank you. Anyone else with quick questions for Chief Bedge on accepting this money?
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off that, I mean, it's not like we had, this is the question I'm forming, it's not like we had funding for these ICE agents to go out to Liza Jackson Park yesterday and, do some of the things that we see on national media to swipe away the kids that were protesting, question mark.
Yeah, there was nothing. I mean, we monitored it from a distance. Everything was peaceful out there. We're glad to see people out there expressing their First Amendment rights. And correct, none of this has anything to do with that.
I'll add my comment, I guess, after the second, or I can just throw it in
Yeah.
now, but I'll just wait till the second.
Anyone from the public wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, is there a motion, council?
Mayor, go ahead, Mr. DeBerry.
Okay, I make a motion to approve Resolution 2026-04, accepting stipend funding from the United States Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Immigration and Customer, ICE.
Second.
Motion made by Councilwoman DeBerry, seconded by Councilman Schmidt to approve Resolution 2026-04 per staff's recommendation. Additional comments, council?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. I bring that up because I'm a big culture guy, and I know the first time we brought this up, we had some MAGA people in here on the other side, and it was just we don't want to accept this funding. But I bring that question up just to show the contrast that regardless of the fear-mongering that we see in our national news and our media, that's not what's really going on. And especially what's going on, especially not what's going on underneath Chief Page's leadership. And we're using this funding to offset some funds that would come from our general revenue if we didn't accept this. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Council, please vote. And the motion does pass 6-1. That brings us to ordinances on first reading. Specifically, Ordinance 2204, an ordinance amending Chapter 11.14, motorized scooters and micro-mobility devices, and the COO. Mr. Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. This is Ordinance 2204, an ordinance of the City of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, amending Section 11.14.01 to add additional definitions, retitling Section 11.14.02 to operations, and amending it in its entirety, retitling Section 11.14.03 to parking, and amending it in its entirety, retitling Section 11.14.04 to penalties, and amending it in its entirety, amending Section 11.14.05 titled Application for Permits, amending Section 11.14.06 titled Safety Regulations, deleting Section 11.14.07 and renumbering Section 11.14.09 titled Operation of Dockless Small Vehicle Share Systems to Section 11.14.07, deleting Section 11.14.08 and renumbering Section 11.14.10 titled Data Sharing to Section 11.14.08, and amending said section, deleting Section 11.14.09 and renumbering Section 11.14.11 titled Number of Small Vehicles Allowed to Section 11.14.10, and deleting Sections 11.14.12, 11.14.13, and 11.14.14 in their entirety, and provide for an enforcement, severability, conflicts, codifications, and an effective date. And Chief Page is here to present on behalf of staff.
Thank you, sir. Chief Page.
Yes, well, I'd like to thank Mr. Burns who helped me with this ordinance extensively, because you can hear from the complexity of his reading. I've never seen him go to page 2 with a reading of an ordinance, but it is actually a very simple ordinance. The City Council back in October 27 of 2020 passed Ordinance 2037, which was very similar to this. It dealt with micromobility devices, mainly e-scooters and e-devices. But it was written more from a commercial standpoint. If you remember, that's when the Bird scooters came to town, and a lot of it was phrased from a commercial standpoint. So we renumbered the ordinance. We left a good portion of 2037 in case another scooter company wanted to come here. So we didn't further do any restrictions to commercial motor scooters, but we wanted to clarify for recreational e-devices, because there's been a huge uptake in the usage of e-mobility devices. The emergency room will tell you that is the fastest growing trauma that they're seeing are falls now off e-devices. And not like on a typical bicycle, a lot of the injuries are more serious on the e-devices because of the speed that they travel. So the traffic safety community, which is made up of the various police departments, the sheriff's offices in the county, all got together through 2025, and the city manager in Niceville kind of took the lead, drafted a model ordinance, and that is kind of what we squeezed into our existing e-scooter ordinance. As of date, Crestview, Niceville, and the town of Cinco have all passed an ordinance that is going to be very similar to the one I'm about to present. And Destin and Mary Esther and the county are still in the discussion phase, working out little tweaks to their ordinances. But the goal was to have a similar ordinance countywide, so there would be no confusion when you're riding an e-mobility device, whether you're in the city of Fort Walton Beach, if you're in Cinco, or if you're in the county, the rules will be very similar. There have been a little nuances in some of the ordinances that were passed, but I would say they're probably 95% similar. So I'll go right into the ordinance. And the first part that all we did in 11-1401 was update the definitions. So you can see the definitions, some were stricken, and then additional definitions were added just to define some terms that were absent from the original ordinance. If you go to 11-1402, some of the biggest changes that were added there was we wanted to clarify helmet usage for e-bikes and e-mobilities. State law requires bicycles to the age of 16. The consensus from the working group was at first everybody on an e-mobility device, but then when it went through, I believe, Crestview and maybe Niceville City Council, there was some pushback from adults, and the consensus then was 18 and under. So if you're under 18, to wear a helmet while you're riding an e-mobility device, which could be a scooter or a e-bike. The next one was really to define operations on sidewalks, because you're kind of blurring the lines with pedestrians and now vehicular traffic with the e-mobility devices, and to define what a careless operation on a sidewalk would be, and to provide warning. So if you do approach a pedestrian on the sidewalk, the person on the e-bike or the e-mobility device would have to provide some type of audible warning as they approach the pedestrian. It also described the behavior, because sidewalks are primarily designed for pedestrians and not e-bikes or e-mobility. If you continue in that section, one of the recommendations on letter H, which was made by the sheriff's office, was that the majority of crashes when they looked at their data from e-mobility devices were when the e-mobility devices were riding against the flow of traffic on sidewalks, because when people pull out, they're only looking to their left to gap traffic, and then they make that right turn, and they never see that e-mobility coming on the sidewalk against the flow of traffic. Pedestrians can usually react fast enough to jump out of the way, but some of these e-mobility devices go 15, 20, 25 miles an hour, so you're seeing more crashes. So their suggested language in here was that if there's sidewalks on both sides of the road and you're on an e-device, that you ride with the flow of traffic. If there's only a sidewalk on one side of the road, then you can use that sidewalk in bi-directional. The other section that was kind of added in here, because it could be a little bit iffy under the state laws, was for all e-mobility devices, if they're road rid at night, to have the proper lighting, and it would match the lighting requirements that if you were to drive a bicycle at night. The other section that was added was proper parking. In the commercial section, we talked about putting them back into docking devices. A lot of recreational devices do not have docking devices, so it just spells out that they need to be basically secured to a item that is properly designed, whether it's a bike rack or something else that the city or the county or private property had put out for the proper parking of an e-bike or e-mobility. The other thing we added, and this is all in 11-1403 under the parking section, is that if they were abandoned, they would be treated just like an abandoned vehicle, and they could be removed after 72 hours, just like we would move an abandoned vehicle from a city park or something else. 11-1404 just clarified that it is a civil infraction of the city code and refers back to the city code 106.04, which all civil citations are written under. And then everything basically after 11-1405 is the old ordinance. Some of it was just pushed down further into the ordinance, or if there was a duplication in the section like 11-1407, that was then stricken from the commercial ordinance because it was already covered in the general portion of the ordinance. Mr. Mayor, if there's any questions, I'd be glad to take them at this time.
Thank you, Chief Beige. Councilwoman DeBerry.
Yes, you mentioned that there are fines against the e-bike riders.
So if the ordinance was to pass, you could write a civil citation if they were to violate sections of the ordinance, such as careless operation on the sidewalk, riding without a helmet, any one of the things that are enumerated in the ordinance, there could be a civil fine associated with it.
Because I as an adult driving, I am very cautious watching, because the e-bike riders are not, do they not have to take a course on riding an electric bicycle?
Nope.
Because they're
They do, and the ordinance also talks about careless operation, about maintaining a place of safety, not going back and forth between the roadway and the street. So the state law, and there is legislation that is pending at the state level, whether it passes or not, is a 50-50 proposition. But some of the e-devices do fall in a gray area between a bicycle or a pedestrian or a motorcycle.
Well, they should have classes and.
So one of the things that is proposed in one of the state bills is that if you were a minor, just like there's a boating safety course, you would have to go to an e-bike safety course and get an e-bike safety course card that you could be asked for if you're driving an e-bike.
I'll vote for that.
Well, you have to run for state rep.
I will. Hey, I'm on them.
Let's do it. Any other questions? Councilman Schmidt.
I mean, just from a principal standpoint, Mr. Burns, just maybe on the legal side. So, I mean, you bring up a good point from safety, right? We all want safer roads and all that. If Mr. Berry were to motion that, require that, safety education class, and there was a second, and we decided to bring this back to bake that in there, could we legally do it?
Could you require, like
a safety course like how there is for the boaters course that Chief Page brought up?
If the state legislature does not pass something similar preempting it, then you could certainly try to require it.
So that's if they pass something. So currently, there's nothing on the books that would keep us from having a safer city by requiring everybody to get a safety course.
Mm-hmm.
We could do it.
Right.
So,
Off the top of my head, I mean, if y'all make that change, I will research it a little bit deeper,
Gotcha.
but I think off the top of my head, you could do that.
just every principal's curious about it. And then also too, I'm seeing in this ordinance, everybody gets a warning the first go around, right?
Correct.
So it's that whole education.
Yes.
So
it follows the city citation for civil violations, and it requires a warning unless it's a public danger, and then you could go right to a actual violation.
Gotcha. That's all from us, Mayor.
Sir, Councilman Walker, questions?
I couldn't see it in there. I had a constituent ask me or complain that his mom was constantly being buzzed in the in Ferry Park on the sidewalks, but that's just like a bicycle ride. So
the e-bike ordinance that we proposed to you would actually give pedestrians greater usage of the sidewalk, because it makes a pedestrian superior to the e-bike. The e-bike has to yield to the pedestrian, the e-bike has to warn the pedestrian. If the e-bike is operating in a careless manner on the sidewalk, the e-bike rider could be cited. So it increases, and Mr. Burns, I mean, you read it too if you differ in your opinion, it increases the pedestrians' rights on the sidewalk.
But they can ride inside the park on the
Correct.
sidewalks there.
But
Okay.
maybe a secondary user.
I was like,
right
I don't know if they can or not, but I felt like it was a bicycle, but okay, gotcha, thanks.
Right now, they can do it with almost no restrictions on the sidewalk.
Gotcha.
Anyone else questions? Councilman Jeter?
So how is this going to help us tomorrow?
How is it going to help us tomorrow?
Write a citation or enforce this in a way we didn't last week.
So one, and we've talked about this in the past, is by codifying something in an ordinance, it gives us a place to start with educational campaigns. Because now we can go around and say, this is the ordinance of the city of Fort Walton Beach. The majority of the public, 75, 80%, will automatically follow it once we tell them that this is now the ordinance. Then we'll have to go out there and write a few violations, but now we have actual articulated and objective things that we can write a violation for. So Mr. Walker's example, if somebody is buzzing in and out of people on a sidewalk, there are two things on here. One that we added that some of the other cities debated, and I don't know if all of them put it in or not. We put a speed limit of 15 miles an hour on the sidewalk. A lot of e-bikes, a class 3 or class 2 e-bike, which is 28 miles per hour under state law. So that allows us now to have some objectable criteria to write the civil citations under.
So how long do we think this educational campaign is going to take? And how long do you think it will take till we get to enforcement of writing citations?
I mean, we generally try to do stuff with an educational campaign for about 30 days. But just by having this discussion right now on this topic, we're probably educating people on it. If we wanted to go out and start writing citations after the second reading, the ordinance becomes effective upon the signing at the second reading of the ordinance, so we could go out and do that. One of the initiatives, and this is why it's coming as a countywide initiative, and Crestview passed one, Niceville passed one, Destin's working, and Mary Esther's working, and the county's working. They wanted to get everybody on the same sheet of music. And then we could do a county-wide educational campaign that could be pushed out by the PIOs and everyone else Because if we had very similar rules, we may not have to write our exact rule in there, but if we have careless operations on a sidewalk, you must yield to pedestrians on a sidewalk. Even though that language may differ slightly in Destin, Fort Walton Beach, and Crestview, the intent of the language is the same. And we could do a mass marketing campaign to push it out there and try to really get that message out. If we don't have an ordinance, or if all the cities have different ordinances, it makes an educational campaign so much harder to accomplish.
And Ferry Park got brought up multiple times. All the ordinances that are currently being broken in Ferry Park on a daily basis, like smoking, like dogs off a leash, like dirt bikes, like everything else that I personally get calls and texts on every single day. Do you think we'll be able to enforce this one? What makes this one different from all the other ordinances that we spend all this time creating and we don't ever get to that third E word of enforcement?
I don't think they don't go unenforced, because there was a list that we sent you where they were enforced. The issue is that everything gets prioritized. And we go out there and we prioritize calls as they come in. We'd love to have the luxury to keep an officer at Ferry Park 24/7. But we go by and we monitor Ferry Park. When you brought up the issue about the dirt bikes in Ferry Park, we put extra emphasis in Ferry Park, and we found a 12-year-old that lived a few blocks away, went to his house, spoke with his parents, and told them about the usage of a motorized, which is not part of this ordinance, but a motorized bike within the parks. Hopefully, since we had that education session with them, at least that one has not been back in Ferry Park. And we'll continue to increase the monitoring of Ferry Park to address the other ordinance issues, the dogs off the leash, the smoking in the park, and then if there are gas-powered scooters going through the park.
And it's not just Ferry Park. I just hope we can enforce this one everywhere throughout the city. I do see it being a problem. I just hope we can get to that third E word in 30 days.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Browning.
Chief, so it says to increase in usage of e-mobility devices in the local area. Does that not include residential areas, or does it?
You're talking in the new ordinance or the original ordinance?
The new one.
So the new one, we want to increase recreational use of e-devices, and we would strongly encourage alternative modes of transportation as long as they are done safely.
Okay, so my question is, like for residential neighborhoods like Beachview that doesn't have sidewalk other than the last quarter of the neighborhood on just Beachview Drive alone. So how do you enforce it with, because all the families that walk have to walk on the street, and then you got the same thing going on with people weaving in and out, middle of the road, left side of the road.
So in the e-bike ordinance, it talks about if they're not on the sidewalk, they need to ride as close as they can to the right side of the roadway, the edge of the roadway. The same thing you do is if you're riding a bicycle on the street. And the ordinance also then talks about pedestrians. So you have to look at the order of priority on the roadway. So in Beachview, like where you talked about, and there's no sidewalk, now you have a pedestrian walking on the street. A car would be required to go around the pedestrian. The same thing as the e-bike in this ordinance talks about careful and prudent operation around pedestrians. So they would have to, one, provide an audible warning, honk their horn, their bell, whatever else, and then move over to go around the pedestrian.
That's all.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else with questions on this? Yeah, Councilman.
That brings up a good point, Mr. Browning. So Brooks and Bay, same kind of deal. There's no sidewalks. Walkers, runners all the time. So as the e-bike product continues to go up and more volume of it's out there, I mean, they're out there in the road going, there's no sidewalks, there's people walking. Are they violating the code?
So the code would talk about what the interaction with the pedestrian. So driving down the road on your e-device is no violation. Now, if you're going against traffic, that would be a violation, because here it talks about if you're not on a bike path, sidewalk, if you're on the actual roadway, you need to ride as far over to the right in the direction of travel as possible on an e-device.
So what's key is going with the flow of traffic.
You have to go with the flow of traffic, and you have to be on the right side.
Gotcha.
Now, if you approach a pedestrian, the same rules apply as in a vehicle. You have to signal to the pedestrian, and you have to go around the pedestrian. If you were careless around the pedestrian, that's where the ordinance then would trigger a possible enforcement action.
Gotcha. All right, thank you.
Councilman Jeter.
This may be more for Mr. Burns. You obviously rehearsed that when you read it, because that was a long.
Yeah.
You did a great job. I assume that you in your time you're always very good at this. I'm assuming you've done it with this one. You researched some other municipalities that maybe have more of an e-bike problem. I know like in South Florida, there's the Pinellas Trail that runs 40 miles. It's 12 foot wide, and they've found a way for e-bikes and other people to ride. I'm assuming that we've researched some other ordinances and or did we just
No, this actually, instead of doing that, because there's been such a push, and we're probably the fourth or fifth local governmental entity to actually get this and try to pass it, because everyone's trying to operate from the same sheet of music, then I did not make substantial changes to what was the model.
So that's my question. We're going off, what is the original version? Who was the pioneer of this one?
Niceville.
Niceville. So Niceville started it.
So
Chris
Niceville didn't start it independently. It was about a 6-month process. And they actually had a community meeting at the Niceville Community Center. I don't know, Councilman DeBerry, if you came to that one or not. But they did a public workshop in conjunction with the Florida Department of Transportation. They did a presentation. And the group behind it, which was run out of the health department, actually did that. They did a search of ordinances across the state of Florida. Tampa had one of the most robust e-mobility ordinances, and that's how they pulled out individual pieces. The helmet, riding with traffic, the careless operation, use on the sidewalk. So this was not an original Niceville authored ordinance. This is probably a summation of the best ordinances across the state of Florida. And it was done as a collective across the Okaloosa County.
And Councilmember Jeter, I kind of took that and merged it into what we already had to try to keep what we already had on the commercial side.
Okay. Councilman Walker.
Probably an odd man out here, maybe. But I went for a run this morning and I had to wear some earbuds that I don't normally wear, because normally I wear the ones that I can hear. But I put the ones in and I had the music going, and I'm like, man, I'm going to get over on the other side and run against traffic, because everybody's on their phone anymore.
So pedestrians are required to be opposite traffic. So if you're a pedestrian, you're supposed to be against it.
I know, and so I'm like, if I had a kid, which I don't, that age, that was on one, or if I go out on one, I don't want traffic coming up behind me. I'm going to be honest. I don't want traffic coming up behind me in today's Facebook. You know, they're on their phones riding down the road, and if they're right there already, they're easy to miss. I mean, I don't know. I'd hate to require it over there and someone gets struck, a kid gets struck from behind because he didn't see the one.
Are you currently required to go with traffic?
I disagree with it too. That's why I say it. I disagree with it all. I mean,
e-scooters, which are the kind of the gray area right now in the law.
Yeah, the bicycle, I do go riding bicycles, and I will, apparently, I violate the law. And I face traffic. Yeah, I go against the traffic.
I'm with you too. I'm not going.
I go against the traffic. I want to see that driver's eyes. And if I've got the last second ditch off, I'm going off of the road. I'm not going to get hit from behind. So that's just me. I'd hate to be ticketed for doing what I think is safe, and I'd hate for my child, if I had one, to not be safe either. I don't know. I like seeing the driver's face coming at me, and I can see them instead of coming up behind me.
Does that make sense? I know it's a question.
Oh, was it? But I did ask a question, didn't I? See, that was a question. That was a question.
He phrased it in the eye, so I don't really know what
I know. We're working on it. Yeah. We're working every day.
Keep working. Keep
Anyone
working.
else with a question? Seeing none, anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Mr. Redding, please.
So I had two questions. I read the ordinance. You said that...
Name and address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, Robert Rennie, 313 Kepner. You said you could not ride an e-bike on a sidewalk in Ferry Park? That it's...
You can.
No, you can't.
Yeah, absolutely you can.
Okay.
Yes.
The only other observation I had was that we have resource officers in every school. And if this is going to be a county-wide initiative coordinated through the municipalities and the non-municipalities, I think the resource officers in the schools are an excellent starting point. And I'll tell you a funny story. I moved my dad here 4 years ago from Melbourne, Florida, and I drove through a neighborhood that had a gated community and a new high school. There were more golf carts in the student parking lot than there were cars for the teachers teaching at the school. And I had to like scratch my head and go, how does this work? So what I'm saying is that the resource officers know which children are taking scooters to school. And that would be an excellent opportunity for them to start this education process. Because like Mrs. DeBerry, I've been driving down Hollywood and have witnessed random acts of e-bike stupidity where, oh, it's time to make a left. Oh, you didn't look, and I had to slam on the brakes. And I wrote to some of the council members here, I had a guy on an e-bike flying by me on Ferry, and I had to get my dogs on leashes situated first, and he missed me this much with the right handlebar, and he was going in excess of 15 miles an hour. And how do I know this? The last thing I'll let you know is I sit on the Transportation Planning Organization as your representative on the Citizen Advisory Council as the cyclist. I went over 100,000 miles today since 2006 in Okaloosa and Walton counties. So I know the roads, I know the behavior out there from cyclists. I disagree vehemently about riding into traffic. The closing distance creates more deaths than people getting hit from coming behind. That's the rationale for riding with traffic, is that when a big object closes on a cyclist or a pedestrian, the damage to that person is far greater than if they were hit from behind, and that's the science behind that. But thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Rennie. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this? Seeing none, council, do you wish to take any action with motion?
I make the motion. I'd like to make a motion, please.
Sure.
That we adopt the ordinance number 2204 for improved traffic safety and safer usage of e-mobility devices.
Second.
Also known as bikes.
Motion to approve ordinance 2204, seconded by Councilman Browning. Any additional comments? Council, please vote. And it does pass 5-2. Which mercifully brings us to item 12. There is none. Even better. Item 13, City Manager Reports. Mr. Davis.
Let's do it. So, Mr. Schmidt, Councilman Schmidt, spoke to this earlier about the USSSA tournament for Tyler Reese, is that his name? Tucker Reese? Tucker, that's what I said. It was this weekend, it was great. It's nice to see the kids out there playing ball. The Parks did a good job of, getting that rock and roll. Boat launch was awesome. It was cool to see all of the neighboring municipalities show up in the county. We had a good presence from the sheriff and military, but just want to put it out there that anybody running these illegal pontoons or wake violators and the derelict vessels, you're on notice. I want to give, if I had 3 thumbs, I'd give all 3 to Jared in our finance department. He was able to wrangle $220,000 out of FEMA from old storm damage, so good for him. Golf clap. Yeah.
It was hard, very hard.
The churches, so I spoke to a couple of the representatives from the churches, and they are all on board to partner with us and figure out how to mitigate some of this trash that we're finding. So they're, one group is limiting the feeding to on-site. Another group is just doing starting with an education campaign, saying, hey, help us out or this is going to go away. So credit to the churches for reaching out, and, as I bugged them, and they're all about it. I want to give a council, let's see, I guess he's a board commissioner, Nixon, sorry, reached out to me. I just want to say thank you that he reached out to discuss those orphan properties. We're going to take a little tactical pause on that as a request from Councilman Browning last time. But he's going to loop me back in after he has a discussion with the new leadership in the military areas. So, but thank you to him for reaching out to me. Tim in our growth management has asked me to get some feedback from council. We're going to start applying for the CDBG grant again. And historically, we've given bits and pieces, right, to various entities. Last year, we did one lump sum. We're trying to work on that park. So Tim's looking for some feedback. Do we want to do another big one or some smaller guys?
Big. Two bigs? Any smalls?
I remember that meeting, and I know, look at the parks getting kicked back, we're doing that, it's not a bad thing, but I don't think we just walk, it's 20,000, 15,000 to some of those organizations that do so much good. It goes a long way. I like spreading the wealth, I like leaving the option to spread the wealth, that's me.
One small, anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, yeah, I remember that too. I spoke with Mr. Gray afterwards, and I remember some of they were all worthy causes, but I asked Mr. Gray, and I'll ask you and us, I don't know why that park is not part of regular Parks and Recreation budget. Why are they having to get special budgeting CDBG money for a Park and Recreation expenditure? It should be part of the Park and Rec's budget, and then the CDBG seems to be going to needy causes, worthy giving causes, as opposed to a Park and Rec thing. I still don't know.
Well, so that particular thing was putting a park where there is no park.
Oh, I thought it was a park already.
No, there's no park. There is a park that's very close to that area, but it's actually in the county, not in the city limits.
Okay.
So that was the whole thing. Was trying to create a park where there was no park.
Is that the one where last meeting we transferred it over to that other nearby one now? Because that one we had designated it to was a no-go?
Correct. So you're a small, that's 2-2?
Oh, I don't know about small.
Well, that's what you just voted, small.
I didn't even go to the record. I don't think I said small. I just said
it's big. We'll go to the record. Big. So he's big.
I'm big. I'll go big.
So now we're
go big, go home.
We can't live in the silence now. We can't see like.
We just got to start going for the application, and honestly, I don't foresee this CDBG grant being a thing too much longer because it comes from HUD, and it seems like it's trending down every year, so we may not get anything, but we got to start doing the prep work.
Mayor, so moved to give Tim guidance on using CDBG funds to go after a large project.
Second. Motion made by Councilman Schmidt, seconded by Councilman Jeter to lump it all into one big old project.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Browning brought up a good point. I mean, we could have some good conversations and things like that, but ultimately, we got to give growth management and city managers some clarity and some direction. So, seen it both ways, been up here for a long time. You know, we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars chipping away little money for, you know, food shelters and homeless camps and things like that, that money doesn't really get spread too far. I like seeing that direct impact that we did or that we're going to be working with on the county for using this large sum of money on increasing or improving a park for that community. I think there's a lot of, this funding comes from being an entitlement community, an entitlement city that we get this federal money to use. I think there's a lot that we can do to improve blightedness and to improve certain projects that we don't get from I know it's still taxpayers' dollars, but from our city general revenue, we can use those CDBG funds to really knock out some of these larger projects to improve the blightedness, to improve some of the comments we heard from the community during the public comment section about the 3% cap presentation. We can keep checking things off the list of some older areas and some older things to make it look better. That's my argument, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak? Councilman Jeter.
All of those things that he just said, they also factor into staff saying last time too, when we break them down small, it factors in staff's time. So I think the 130 trickled down to only be about 100 that we could spend, whereas if we do a big project, about 120 we could spend because there's a lot less staff time. So yeah, I've been up here and seen it both ways. I think we all agreed last time you get more bang for your buck, you can do a big project. I look forward to seeing all of the different types of big projects we can do. I'm sure there's a good one out there, but that's why we're going to be.
Thanks, sir. Councilman Walker.
Yeah, I just hate to see the little guys lose out on opportunity because we said big. I like to see the little, I mean, a $10,000 swing to some of those organizations is a huge impact. So I hate to see them be taken off the list because we said big. So I don't know what last time there were 2 different groups he put together. I think people submitted their wants and needs, and obviously the group decided where to send it, but there were a lot of hungry people there, if you will, looking for some of that, and one person got it, one entity got it, so I don't mind splitting it up in the small, so wouldn't mind seeing smaller ones being presented, but.
Maybe another way to add some substance to this, when we historically had the smaller grants, there was a lot of people that never even spent the money. They just took the money, didn't do the project. Tim, yes? So when we had the smaller approach, 10 or so little entities, some never did the project, but got the money. Couple occasionally.
Yeah, so in the past, typically they would all spend it. Some were obviously more responsive than others. We are tracked by HUD on how quickly we do spend this money out. If we start getting over 3 years, we start getting on their bad list, and it can actually threaten the overall funding. We've not really gotten that far with anybody. There's been a few though that we have had come back and said, yeah, for whatever reason, we just can't do that project anymore. And we've had to move that money to a different project that was under the same kind of thing. Yeah, and honestly, I mean, we can go with whichever way. If you want to see both options, we can do that. What I didn't want to do was, if the answer was going to be, we're going to go with the big project, I didn't really want to put on an advertisement saying, hey, put in your applications for this and we'll consider you for a grant, if we weren't going to be doing that. So if it is going to be a consideration, I mean, we can still run the same advertisement. We have to advertise something anyways. I was really just, if it was going to be the large project, then I didn't really kind of want to dangle hope out there if we weren't going to go that way.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask him a question while he's there?
Sure.
So for example, in the past, it's become compliant to use those CDBG funds for making pickleball courts, correct?
That was done before my time. I think it was back in 2018, 2019. It was done.
So not advocating for more pickleball courts, but what I'm getting to is that we can use this funding to make better parks, to make better things that don't impact our city general revenue, park and rec department budget, and use that money to spread it in other places and inter departments and things like that.
Yeah,
So
we have to be very careful on that though, because it does.
yeah, we're gonna stay compliant. We got a great city attorney. Yeah, we definitely need to be careful, but I just wanted confirmation that we have used it in the past for those kind of things. That we can do other things that are similar to that to make.
One was because one of the assumed groups by HUD is elderly.
There you go.
And pickleball, especially back at that time, was more elderly. Some of the demographics seem to be shifting downward now. But at that time, that was really the project that was done for that elderly population.
So we can be creative, I guess, is the big picture I was getting to. Not advocating right now for more pickleball courts or anything like that, but before we go to a vote, just wanting to try to, I know it, right? I just want to try to make sure we have the background education that these $120,000, $130,000 can go to a wide variety of things, not just the few small mom and pop and spread it around even.
Gotcha. Has a definition been determined on big or large? Well, I don't know what that means. Has that?
All of the funding going to one
Lump sum?
project. That's big.
Okay,
Small
so-
is what you're advocating for. That's why I said you were
Well,
small.
well, that's-
Earlier, wasn't it?
Mayor, I can help you out with this discussion.
Mr. Burns.
But Tim, you still have to advertise this and ask for people to apply though, correct? Like, you saw.
We have to advertise that the funding is out there and that we're soliciting input on how it's going to be used. In the past, since it's always been done with doling it out to the subrecipients, we've made it more specific that we're looking for applications from. We don't specifically have to advertise that we're looking for applications from nonprofits to apply for that funding. We do have to advertise that it's out there and that we're open for input on it, but not specifically that please come apply.
So you're directing staff through your motion to say whenever someone comes in for input, we're only on these big projects.
That's a good point.
Thank you
for that clarification.
If I could also say one thing here, I know I'm not going to get a vote in this, but there is a board as well, a community board, that makes recommendations on how to spend that money, correct?
That is correct.
And that community board is very well versed in not only this grant itself, but in this process and with these charitable organizations that often come, ask, and then it's brought back to that board and they make their recommendation to this board.
That's right.
Just wanted to include that as well because there are other people involved here and you guys are making the decision for them as to what types of people are going to be able to apply. So that's kind of what this vote is.
And I heard 120,000. Is that a number that is?
It's a rough.
Okay, is that
It's
typical?
kind of been around
So if by going big, does that mean that two $60,000 applicants couldn't be approved?
So again, maybe I did a bad job of, I was asking, do we want to do one lump project like we did last time?
I hadn't seen them.
Smaller projects?
Right, we hadn't seen the projects though, I mean, so I don't want to
The lump
commit
sum
to.
project was the park that is going to go into the Lovejoy, I forgot the name of it, Sylvania Heights area. Right, so we've had a community input meeting, got some feedback. Now we're maybe pivoting because that lump sum project was $105,000. So to build a park, that's not even going to cover engineering and civil work, right? So we're trying to be creative with what we're doing with that money.
So that money's coming back?
It hasn't gone anywhere.
Hasn't gone out?
No.
It's just, it was approved for that project?
Correct.
And then it's kind of dying on the vine?
No.
No.
Still navigating a few options, whether we might partner with the county.
Gotcha.
Whether we might, we have some used, slightly used. Still
Sure.
very nice equipment
Sure.
from a school that we could potentially use that stuff.
Gotcha.
I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, but it was a lump sum project and it was $105,000.
Gotcha.
Again, guessing, reading the tea leaves, that number's probably gonna start trending downwards because HUD is, even the Homeless Coalition right around the corner here, I forgot the name of the organization, they're getting their funds cut. So we might get $0 potentially, right? But that was the ask. Do you wanna do one lump project with all of it or piecemeal it like we did historically?
How to get this back on track now.
No, we're just having some good conversation after the second.
But let's let everybody that hasn't spoken speak first. And then we'll go.
This is hard, let's give up.
We'll go Mr. Merrill, then Ms. Riley.
One thing, I feel like we're taking the job from that board. I do. I mean, they might have some worthy projects. And two, this part I really like how the government tries to act efficiently and then doesn't act efficiently. Because now if there's an application process and I need $50,000 and you go, need not apply, if you don't need 120, I'm gonna go, I need 120. You know what I mean? And so that, I don't like that with it. And for us to, I mean, like I said, the people that put on that presentation and that were asking, it doesn't seem like it's a big thing for us as a city maybe to go here, let's fund this $25,000 project. But to say these are just, to say you gotta do it in one lump sum, but also on the other end, you might need more. And you're just gonna come into that and everybody that is gonna apply for that 120, which is to me an inefficient way to do it because that's not necessarily what they need, more or less. So, I don't know.
Thank you, Councilman. Ms. Riley.
I just wanted to ask Tim, with the CDBG funds, I know in the past, normally when you do apply for it, do you still have to put the money up front? You do the work and then you ask for reimbursement?
That's correct.
So that still stands, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So have you found it more difficult for the smaller sums of money that's being asked for? Are they able to make the purchases and then get it in there for the reimbursement? And I guess I'm asking that too because I know, I've applied for CDBG monies prior, when I was with God.
Yeah, really this is, I mean, as far as
we've always kind of had the money up front, but then I know that sometimes they put it back in the pot because some of the other organizations didn't have the money up front to be able to do it and then get reimbursed for it. And so my question is somewhat how is that affecting, the smaller group of people, 10, 15, 20,000, are they able to?
So we haven't run into any issues with that where people just didn't have the money to put up front that I'm aware of anyways. Like I said, the ones that we've had to move have been ones that just decided not to go with the project anymore. Some of the other ones we're working through are just making sure that they close out permits and some stuff like that. Ultimately, this is really just comes from a question from whatever was about 13, 14 months ago when we did the briefing to the council on what is the CDBG and how it's done. The guidance at that point was we want to go for one big project. We then, a couple months later, advertised to people. A lot of people applied for it. It's like, well, thanks, but we're going to go with one big project because that was the direction of council at the time. We did present all of them that we received and stuff, and we're fine doing to it. The direction was going to be one big project, which it doesn't sound necessarily like it is. Then I just didn't want to dangle hope out there. But if it is something, and it sounds like a lot of the council members want to hear kind of the two different options, that we can do that just fine.
Thank you. Councilman Brown.
Yeah, I like that idea, because I agree with Mr. Walker with, we haven't seen them, so how are we deciding on which projects? I mean, I feel like last time there's representatives from some of these beneficiaries of this grant, and the proposed new park came up, and we all decided as a body that that's a better plan for that money at that time. But if we're capping ourselves here at only doing large projects, the big, and not providing, other people could come in with other things that they need, and we're not even hearing them out, just doesn't make any sense. I feel like if we could see them both, and then we talk about it like we did last time, and say big, all right, let's do big, let's do little, or whatever, just only one viewpoint, just, I can't support the motion as it is now, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Schmidt, and then we'll go ahead and...
Yeah, I appreciate you, Mayor, bringing up that comment, and I was actually going to kind of respond to that, and I'm glad Mr. Merrill did as well. I don't want to restrict the Citizen Advocacy Committee. For an example, if we gave them guidance on assuming we would do a larger project, some of these not-for-profits, like for an example, One Hopeful Place, I would love to work with partnering on them to expand their kitchen programming and things like that so that we can get some of these services that we're having a hard time with that Mr. Davis alluded to about trash all over First Street, working with those folks of that program being the place that feeds them. So not cutting out the non-for-profits, not cutting out those type of organizations, but instead giving that citizen advocacy committee that would be working on the statutorily required CDBG grant team of, hey, council gave us clarity, we got $120,000 to work with, hey, non-for-profits, submit your proposals on how we can partner to go after what's one big need your non-for-profit needs. So definitely don't want to cut them out or anything like that, but giving them clarity on if the motion fails and there's a hybrid, it's going to be probably more extensive on the staff and the CAC to come up with more proposals and things like that. But either way, let's move on.
Thank you, sir. Council, please vote.
I meant to vote. I just said yes, but it's passed anyway, so.
Well, it would still be 4-3.
I just,
So the motion does pass 4-3. Now we'll return to the city manager report.
All right. That'd be real quick.
Hope that gave you your clarity.
We have been selected, I'm not sure if we're going to be the cover child or the main story, but Business View, I think I mentioned that. They're reaching back out to me this Friday, so they want to do a good article on Fort Walton Beach and all the cool stuff we got going on, so that's kind of neat. Felicia Scaife, I'm not sure how you say her name, I might have butchered that, but Miss Scaife, she has reached out to me to start a community garden. We have a lot of things going on, so David's team in Parks is looking at an Arbor Day presentation, so that'll be pretty cool. I told her we'd circle back and potentially do something at Preston Hood with a community garden type deal. Gulfview, let's get crazy. So many council meetings back, it was asked that we see if there was interest in selling the Gulfview with some criteria. I reached out to the Realty House, and there is currently one party that would be interested, but now we have to go through a formal process if we want to actually sell it. So I'll need some direction because Mark at the Realty House has asked me if I want to put up for sale signs. So now do we want to do that?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So just for clarity, it's not out there on the formal market.
Correct.
Because our ordinance says we can't do that until we surplus it.
Surplus
correct?
property, yeah.
So at this point, some of the appetite that we have with those restrictions that council talked about, keeping the historic building, not scraping it, those kind of things, just to make sure we're all on the same page. The interest that we got is kind of just like word of mouth around some networks that Realty House has.
I didn't ask to provide a specific name because I knew I couldn't sell it specifically. He just said there was one interested party.
Gotcha.
And I think he also indicated, Mark actually talked about it because he wanted to know if it had been surplus or not. He said there wasn't even a dollar amount that had been thrown around even. So.
And I bring that up just because the whole intention all along was to see what appetite's out there, back to proposals. If we see a proposal that we don't like, we cut it. We're in the position that we're in, and we keep it and do the things that we're doing. So I was just wanting to ask that question because I want the council to know at this point we haven't really formally promoted it and solicited it.
and gone to the marketplace to really truly gauge what kind of real interest may or may not be out there.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else with thoughts to share from Mr. Davis' direction on this? Councilman Jeter?
By surplus, that does not mean put a sign up out front. That just means taking the next step to field offers. Correct.
And what will have to happen though, at the next council meeting, the way it's done, and there's a checklist actually, the city code, every time it's been done, he'll bring back a report that y'all will then consider at the next meeting whether or not to surplus it. At that point, there's some items that have to be in there. A lot of it's already been done, like the independent appraisal, we won't have to go out and get that. Like I said, that'll already be in there for y'all's consideration. So.
Anyone else with any direction to provide here for Mr. Davis, Mr. Walker?
Oh, well, we talked about it not too many meetings ago, and I don't remember how the vote went, but I think there was there's some consensus to hold it. We believed that property is a city asset and it's not costing us anything, and that when Around the Mountain comes, it's going to benefit that property, and we would be early to, consider doing it now. So I'd oppose, going the surplus route now. It's too early, is my thoughts to you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to offer direction here?
I concur with Mr. Walker.
I have a question.
Sure.
Similar to the Preston Hood Sports Complex, we surplus that, correct, and never sold it?
Yes.
So,
That is correct.
So I guess just before we get too far down the road, and I respectfully agree, or I respectfully understand where some of y'all may be, hey, I don't even want to even think about selling it, so let's not even start the process. All that I'm wanting to entertain is, if we were to surplus it, doesn't mean we have to sell it, just like Preston Hood. Park's getting expanded, we're holding on to it, it's an asset. To gauge the interest, we have to surplus it. And then at that point, we get more interest, more proposals, and maybe it's somebody else that not only can keep the building, but also better maintain it and get it off of our capacity so that our team can do other things, as well as maintain the landing improvements and some of that other stuff. As well as too, we're competing for square footage space in the downtown market, and I just don't think that's our role. So that was my last question. Very similar to the Preston Hood Sports Complex. We surplused it. I just wanted confirmation on that we did surplus that, but never sold it.
That's correct.
We developed it as a city property.
That's right. So we surplus it because our ordinance we have to surplus it before we can formally put it on the market.
Do we need a motion, or are we trying consensus?
He's just looking for consensus here. Do you have consensus?
I don't know.
Yeah. All in favor of surplusing the property?
Yeah, we talked about surplus, we talked about potentially.
It would have to be surplus. Like, Councilman Schmidt's correct.
No.
Councilman Schmidt is 100% correct. If we wanted to gauge the market's interest, however that may be, it would have to be surplus. So that would have to be brought back to the board and have a vote with public hearing, etc., before we could even surplus the property. So right away, that would go on an agenda. Local news would pick that up, and it will say, Fort Walton Beach Council to consider surplusing this building. So then we would get a lot of public information at that point from the public, because a lot of people that either love that building or hate being in the business of managing that building would show up. And then you guys would have the opportunity to address the public, vote whether it's surplus or not. Then the process would move forward by gauging commercial interest, which is what Councilman Schmidt's talking about. So if that's what we're looking to do and to start that process, that's what he wants to know. So perhaps you could just put it on the next agenda and we can have that discussion.
There it is. Sold.
Continue.
Yep, two more things, just real quick. So I did get notification that, maybe it's too soon to keep going down this road, but the police department is going to form a union. I'll start those negotiations, but directly related to concerns of outsourcing and/or chopping their staffing levels. And the last thing I was just going to close with, I think one of the rules I don't have a lot of rules, but with the team, I can't get all 14 directors to have the same opinion, right? But what I require is we get to consensus, and then we don't undermine each other. We support that decision. And that's kind of where I feel like we're struggling. We have such a good team here. We have a lot of good, smart people. So if we bash them in a public forum, these people have families, they have mortgages, cars, whatever. And it's just tough, and that hurts my heart a little bit, because I think we're better than that, so that's why I'm looking. If we have the direction, then we gotta support it, and not just keep throwing rocks at it and undermining it from every which angle we can, because it's just eroding the good stuff that we're doing, and that's where I'll leave it.
Thank you, sir. City attorney reports.
Nothing tonight.
Fair. Final council comments. We start with you, Ms. DeBerry.
No, I've said my piece.
I'm good. Council Leader.
Mr. Mayor, you brought it up last week, and I have personally heard from quite a few people about the Ferry Park bridges. They are awesome. The ones that didn't have handrails now have handrails. They're built a lot sturdier. I mean, everybody has complimented them. So good job on those. The boat presentation earlier was awesome. It was incredible, Chief, and I hope you didn't take what I said earlier about requesting and the E word of enforcement, but after being up there 3 years, we went from the education and encouragement. I'm still waiting to get to the enforcement in some areas. So I hope the boat doesn't take that long to get there, because, and I say this because we had another meeting following it, and 3 citizens immediately told me, glad you finally got a boat. When are you going to do something? We all know where they're renting the pontoons. We all know where they're doing this. So, and it makes me go back to the e-bikes. I sat up here years ago and had people tell me, you're just wasting government money. You're going to buy those e-bikes. They're not going to use them. Whether my kids have helmets on or not, my kids' e-bikes got more miles on them than our e-bikes. We're not riding them. We're not using them. So I hope that boat is not like the e-bikes. We take a really cool picture and we post it on the internet, but we never enforce or use it to enforce. I know that's not your level of where the bar is. I know the bar's up here in your department. I just can't wait to see. I can't wait to see how many citations are written from that boat and those e-bikes in 3 months, because I'm gonna ask for it. Maybe 6 months. It's still a little cold for the boat right now, but use them to enforce, please. That's the people that I'm telling, if you wasted your money on that boat, I'm going, no, watch and see, no, watch and see, no, watch and see. And they're going, we watched it and saw with e-bikes. So let's make sure we use them.
Thank you, sir.
Because I love them. They're awesome. They're cool.
Councilman Merrill.
Yeah, I was able to talk to Tim at Growth Management this week, and just brought up, so you're talking about the water. With that, with the boat being there, with SB 180 passing and looking at could the livery ordinance be put into place, we had some conversations about how to implement that. Season starts in 3 weeks. There's no, they're not dropping the hammer. I appreciate that. Again, I said it before, I don't have a livery in Fort Walton, mine's in the county, but represent and friends with a lot of those people. So, but in the implementation of that ordinance, we talked about maybe taking one more swing. We've learned a lot. We see those fly-by-night out of the back of your house rentals. So I don't know if I would take a motion or if I could get the support up here. Tim's willing to put the time in to sit with us one more time and take one more crack at it, make sure when we implement it, it's exactly what we want. I know you guys are ready to get it done, but if we're gonna implement it going into the next season, I think we have time to maybe, plus or minus a couple things. So I don't know if that would take a motion for us to have that committee with him, or can we just get direction to have that committee and maybe bring that back to council?
Mr. Burns, why don't you weigh in?
You do direction, and are you volunteering to be the head from this board? Okay. And you can work with Mr. Davis, myself, and Growth Management.
Or then bring that committee and take a little swing at it.
It's not a committee. It's an informal investigation.
And I support the following year too. We constantly got to try to get better. So we wrote it a year ago. It needs improvements. I'll support improvements on it a year from now. Sure, update it.
And just so everybody would be clear on that as well, if they came to some kind of recommendations and the ordinance were to be changed, it would come back before the board. It would have a first and second reading.
And go before the LPA too, because I believe it's in the LDC. So it would actually have 3 public meetings.
It'd be about a month and a half.
Yeah.
Provided it were done now. So.
I'll definitely support it. I mean, everybody has their thing, you know what I mean? But just for the 4 that are still watching, we had multiple workshops and multiple opportunities with delivery vessels. I think the partnership was really positive, and not that you were alluding to anything different. I just want to make sure that we continue that process and again, multiple workshops, and by the time the second reading came, I think around March or February of 2025, it was very few in the room, objecting, and I just want to give Tim and their staff a lot of credit for the amount of time and hours that have already been put into it. Now that we got your SME, subject matter expert knowledge up here, let's make it better. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Ms. Ryder.
I just want to quickly thank Chief Page and the council as well for voting for put the safety zone at the Combs Heights area for the school. And I grew up in that community, and I can tell you, just going through there, I feel in my heart that drivers will start to observing. Because just noticing that sometimes, a lot of cars are kind of speeding through there, but I think that once they get adjusted to it, I do believe that you will see a decrease in speeding through that area. And it's just wonderful to see that. So I want to say thank you so much. And then I also want to tell Jacob, Mr. Hill, really, really quickly, I enjoy that golf course. You keep doing what you're doing. And I'm coming for lunch, and I'm going to catch you when you're there.
Keep raising the rates.
Mr. Schmidt.
All right, I went the first time around, so I'm going to do what others did. I'm going to pass this time since I went the first time.
That's fair. Councilman Walker.
Yep, just real quick. Nicole, I believe mostly. I went to that Excel spreadsheet again. Before I came here, I was looking at the latest one, 25, 26. I think it's yes, it was the budget. Yeah, it was the spreadsheet. Previously, they would have, 24 budget, 25 budget, up, down, that kind of stuff. Over on the right column, it says saved.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's not supposed to be up there anymore. We're not paying for that module, so I don't think it's, so that's why I said I was going to look into it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got you. I was like, because I always look for those big changes.
Yeah, I made a note to check and look, because it should be totally down.
Thank you. And then Mr. Browning asked about finance reports, and I know that Jason's report, because someone had asked me about those financials, might have been the same person, Mr. Browning, but they asked me about it, so I went and looked, and I said, well, let me go check Jason's documents, and I went and looked over the last 2 or 3, see all your attachments, see finance, but those aren't numbers, those are project updates on the finance department or things related to the finance. Have we been getting any monthly finance reports with numbers that I've been missing, or are they?
It's the link that I spoke about earlier. It's on the finance page under budget to actual.
Okay.
You click on there. It's all the stuff that's related to the charter amendment.
And there's a link there, and it's called budget to actual.
Yeah, like on the left lower side of the finance
Okay.
page.
I got one in November. Was that the last one?
December. We're about to close out January, so January will come up soon.
I saw an email from you in November, and I thought.
Yeah, we decided just to put it on the website, so it's available to the public.
And then this was the really interesting on your last one that Jason shared with us. You mentioned 2 budgets preparation. You'll be going into that process. You said one would show a 10% decrease, and that you were also in talks with, I believe, the county finance, maybe even the property appraiser, regarding the $3.2 million property tax if the measure passes, gets on the ballot in November and it passes.
Correct.
Who is it you're talking with on that, on the 3.2?
It's the tax office. And we get all the numbers from there, so they took a look at our budget and calculated what the possible numbers that we could lose for property taxes, and it was about 3.1 million, and I think 400,000 of that is CRA. And the rest is general fund.
Because it made me think about this, we got one problem of spending, but when you take away revenue, you got another problem. But I think the white paper that I provided, and Chief, if you're still here, I will get you that as well, but it does address both decreases in revenue and limits on spending. So that white paper that you guys will have that. 66 pages, I think that is the shortest agenda we've had. Doesn't mean relate to time necessarily, but it's good.
Less sticky notes.
Less sticky notes.
Amen, brother. Mr. Browning.
Just kudos to the police department and congratulations on the new boat. That ceremony was awesome. A great speech by the mayor. I got nervous there for a little bit because I thought I was going to have to do it, and I saw you running up, and I got super excited. So I was not prepared for that. Yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you, sir. I would agree. Chief Shipman, who's not here as well. It was awesome to be out there. I would let everybody know as well that those boats are going to be super valuable and super useful for things. But I would echo the comments of Councilman Jeter as well, that it's always great to show the public what they're doing and what they're paying for and the enforcement that they're getting. Although we did not go nearly as fancy as Destin in any of those boats. Their fireboat it's like a Cadillac on the water. But these boats get the job done, and that's something that we should all look forward to. So, thank you, we're adjourned.
To it. I took 9 o'clock in the end of it.